The story starts with Crown Prince Alfonso loudly calling out to Lady Alexandra, shouting that he has run out of patience for her repeated wrongdoings. He formally announces that he is breaking off their engagement. Alexandra stands silently in the spotlight of the ballroom while the guests look on. She recognizes the man as her fiancé, Lord Alfonso, the first prince of the Kingdom of Tarraconensis. She notes that she is currently standing in the middle of her own public condemnation event. Lucia, a baron's daughter whom Alexandra refers to as Potato Girl, begs Alexandra to admit to her crimes so that Lord Alfonso will forgive her. Alexandra remains silent, observing that the crown prince is infatuated with a potato girl instead of her. She notices the surrounding crowd and recognizes that everyone present is an ally to the prince and Lucia. At this point it becomes clear she has no one on her side, so subscribe if you want to see how she turns this around. Alexandra realizes that she seems to have no way out of the current situation. She looks up with a slight smile, considering the possibility that she may actually have a way out after all. Alexandra realizes that she came prepared and tells them to enjoy their remaining time while they still can. She reflects that the entire situation began exactly one day earlier. Alexandra clarifies that one day ago was when everything fell apart, pondering the accusations of wrongdoing made against her. She questions the exact meaning behind the claims made about her actions. The timeline shifts back to 24 hours before the event, showing the outside of a large estate. Alexandra receives bad news inside her quarters. She sits at a table and realizes that her life is about to end. Alexandra notes that she has 24 hours before facing a cancelled engagement and public condemnation, wondering what she should do because she is completely doomed. She experiences a spinning head and nausea, concluding that this is the worst possible situation. Alexandra decides that she needs to calm down and think through her situation clearly. She reviews her background, noting that she is the daughter of one of the 3 great dukes in the Kingdom of Tarraconensis. Alexandra reminds herself that the Kingdom of Tarraconensis sits on a peninsula and that her own family has a very long history within the realm. She then reflects on her engagement to Crown Prince Alfonso, which required her to undergo rigorous training from a young age to prepare for her role as an empress. Alexandra remembers how she only ever envisioned a future alongside Alfonso, believing she would spend her life as his empress. She recognizes that her expected path has suddenly changed. Alexandra sits alone and accepts the fact that Alfonso is now entirely infatuated with the other girl. She recalls that her feelings for the prince were not natural but cultivated, as she felt nothing special during their first meeting. Alexandra notes that she gradually forced herself to like Alfonso because she wanted to avoid a miserable marriage based solely on duty. She explains that because of her choices, she eventually grew to love Alfonso genuinely from her heart. Alexandra adds that she even began to hope Alfonso would return her love. She recalls a statement accusing her of only seeing Lord Alfonso as the crown prince. Alexandra remembers a past moment when she encountered Lucia in a palace hallway. She reflects on the specific words that Lucia directed toward her during that previous encounter. Alexandra states that Lucia's comment made her incredibly angry. She insists that she truly loves Alfonso as a man, noting that Lucia's words completely dismissed her lifelong efforts, her way of life, and her feelings. Alexandra reveals that she knew Alfonso favored Lucia for a long time, even though Alexandra was his actual fiancée. She clenches her fist, concluding that she simply could not tolerate the situation any longer. Alexandra notes that her jealousy turned to malice. Other noble girls mocked Lucia for being the daughter of a baron, warning each other that her poverty would rub off on them if they got too close. She explains that she directed all of her malice toward the potato girl. Nearby girls made comments about Lucia's uniform being completely torn up and dirty. Alexandra looks out a window and states that she never hired anyone to physically attack Lucia. She admits to indirectly encouraging others to do her bidding so she would not be directly involved. She places her hand on the window glass and realizes it was a harmful cycle. The more she acted against Lucia, the more Lucia's simple nature stood out, drawing the prince closer to her. Alexandra reflects on how the situation escalated to the point where Lord Alfonso became openly hostile toward her. She mentions hearing rumors that Alfonso and Lucia had already confessed their love for each other, noting that the prince's dislike for her only grew stronger. Alexandra looks ahead to the upcoming social gathering at the academy, concluding that Alfonso plans to use her wrongdoings as a reason to remove her and choose Lucia instead. She slams her hands onto the table, stating that she refuses to accept this outcome from the potato girl. Alexandra sits alone at her desk, declaring her intention to completely destroy the other woman. She notes that those angry thoughts were exactly what she was fixated on as she approached her chair. Alexandra explains that as soon as she sat down, she suddenly felt a severe dizziness, and memories belonging to an unfamiliar person began flowing into her mind. She realizes those memories belonged to her past life as an ordinary office worker in her second year of adulthood. She remembers being an unattractive and plain person who never had a boyfriend, had a slender build, and spent her time reading light novels, manga, and playing games. Alexandra states that she does not know the reason why she suddenly recalled these memories from her previous life. She shifts her focus to what is truly important, which is her current identity. Alexandra recognizes that her current self is identical to a character from a game called Dokiden, where she is cast as the love rival and main villainess. She also notes that her physical appearance matches that character perfectly. She struggles with severe dizziness as she comes to the certain realization that she is living inside the actual world of that game. Alexandra acknowledges that she is starting to feel sick again and tells herself to get a firm grip on the situation. She realizes that Dokiden is a standard romance game about a commoner heroine, represented by the potato girl, who is adopted by a poor baron and enters a school for nobles to form relationships with the men she meets. Alexandra realizes that she is the exact person who blocks the main character in every single story path of the game. She notes that she gets ruined in most of those paths, criticizing the choice of the writers. She then tries to figure out which specific storyline the potato girl is following right now. Alexandra looks at the large group of men already won over by the potato girl, including the crown prince, the king, and the butler, realizing that this situation leads straight to the reverse ending. She becomes enraged, wondering why the potato girl is pursuing so many different interests at once. Alexandra reflects that in this particular conclusion, the heroine successfully becomes the crown princess while keeping all the other male targets deeply infatuated with her. She collapses onto her desk feeling physically sick, directed entirely at the actions of the potato girl. Alexandra recognizes that while she is normally destined to be publicly ruined at the feast the next day, the reverse harem storyline functions differently. She details how this specific path avoids a public condemnation entirely because the potato girl forgives her, forcing the two of them to settle their differences and remain friends forever. Alexandra reacts with intense anger, declaring that such a peaceful resolution is a total humiliation that she will never tolerate. She decides that she would rather die or face terrible punishments than ever make up with that woman. Alexandra declares that she is someone who worked to become the leader of the nation and will keep her pride throughout the ordeal. She states that she will never beg for mercy from the potato girl. Alexandra stops shouting and begins to quietly review her actual options. She considers how to change a losing situation, deciding that she must move her pieces strategically to make the other girl make a mistake. Alexandra remembers that the reverse ending is the hardest outcome to reach in the game and cannot happen through normal choices. She concludes that the potato girl is also a reincarnated person who has been secretly laughing while watching her follow the scripted villain path. Alexandra reasons that the potato girl likely has her guard down because her happy ending seems completely guaranteed at this stage. Suddenly, she smiles, noting that she is unfortunately no longer a simple computer program following a script. Alexandra stands by the window and notes that she still has time to make her moves. She observes that the condemnation event takes place tomorrow night. Alexandra states that the event is exactly 24 hours away, resolving to turn the situation around completely. She decides on her first step and rings a small hand bell. A maid steps into the room and responds to the sound of the bell. Alexandra's personal attendant, Zenith, approaches and asks if her mistress called for her. She confirms that she did, explaining that she has a specific task to entrust to Zenith. Zenith agrees immediately, stating that she will follow the orders of her mistress. Alexandra instructs Zenith to go and immediately investigate a butler named Harold, causing the attendant to look surprised. Zenith seeks clarification about the butler named Harold, and Alexandra confirms that the name is correct. Alexandra asks if Zenith is unable to complete the request, and after a moment of silence, Zenith answers that she is capable. Zenith bows respectfully and tells Alexandra to leave the investigation completely to her. With 23 hours remaining until the event, a collection of books and tied papers sits on a desk. Zenaida confirms that these items were discovered inside his room. Zenaida speaks directly to her mistress, stating that the findings match exactly what Alexandra suspected from the beginning. Alexandra remains seated and notes that the outcome is just as she expected. She commends Zenaida for her good work while the attendant bows respectfully. Alexandra reflects that Harold is a target for the other girl and intends to betray her at the upcoming event by revealing her misdeeds. She notes that he would need proof to achieve this, which is why she ordered Zenaida to search his quarters while he was away. She looks at a massive stack of journals detailing numerous wrongdoings. She expresses disbelief that he chose to preserve such a large amount of evidence. Alexandra realizes that this evidence will give her the leverage she needs to act against him, and she calls out to Zenaida to deliver her next command. She commands Zenaida to go and summon Harold. After Zenaida complies, Alexandra adds that she must also call for a few of the other household servants. Zenaida asks for clarification regarding whether the other servants should be included. Alexandra requests that her attendant deliver a specific message to them, and Zenaida agrees to do so. Alexandra smiles and instructs Zenaida to deliver the exact message that there is a traitor within their household. A knock sounds at the door as the chapter starts. Harold enters the room and apologizes for keeping his mistress waiting, stating that he came because she called for him. Alexandra tells Harold to come closer, and Zenaida takes her leave to exit the room. Harold stands before the desk and asks how he can be of service. Alexandra remains completely silent. Alexandra observes Harold making a harmless face while he is actively trying to double-cross her. Harold shows confusion as Alexandra calls out his name. She states directly that Harold is fired and commands him to leave the house immediately. Harold wonders to himself why this is happening so suddenly. He asks his mistress if he has done something that did not meet her satisfaction. Alexandra sighs and states that she is fully aware that he likes the potato girl. Harold reacts with sudden shock. Alexandra clarifies that whoever he likes is not the issue, but prioritizing that girl over his master is a completely different story. Harold is startled by the mention of prioritization and states that he simply considers Lucia to be a lovely woman. Alexandra responds with an expression of mild amusement. Alexandra points out that Harold is already on a first-name basis with the girl. She describes Lucia as a woman who makes advances toward the crown prince as well as numerous other men, concluding that she has no idea what part of that behavior Harold finds lovely. Harold reacts with total speechlessness. Harold swallows hard objects, stating that describing the situation in that way makes it seem as though Lucia is seducing and deceiving men. He requests that his mistress retract the statement. Alexandra wonders if Harold is trying to give her commands now as she rings her handbell. The doors suddenly burst open and several household servants enter the room, causing Harold to look back in surprise. The servants grab Harold and strike the back of his leg to force him down. Harold reacts with shock and demands to know what they are doing. Harold collapses to the floor under their grip and asks Alexandra to stop calling him by that name. He looks up in frustration as footsteps approach, demanding to know what his mistress is doing. Alexandra looks down at him and states that he is no longer a servant of the house. Alexandra calls out to Zenaida, who answers as she enters the room. Harold turns around in confusion, but his face fills with shock when he sees Zenaida holding the stack of documents. One of the servants opens a journal to read it, prompting Harold to scream at Zenaida to stop. The journal entry describes a secret late-night meeting with the leader of an underground organization on a specific date. It records that multiple gemstones were traded for a contract to stage an attack on Lucia. Zenaida continues reading from the journal, stating a specific date and time for a tea party with multiple classmates. She reads that Harold spoke of rumors concerning Lucia as if they were factual to isolate her further. Harold looks down with a strained expression. Zenaida adds that Harold also kept records of all of his mistress's movements and behaviors. Harold reacts with silent panic. Alexandra looks down at the journal and states that it is unfortunate for Harold to dishonor her and the entire household in this manner. She leans forward over her desk and demands to know if Harold has an explanation for what he did. Harold grits his teeth in silence. Harold speaks up loudly, stating that he does have an explanation and argues that Alexandra's actions against Lucia were unjust in the first place. Alexandra cuts him off, stating that her ears hurt every time she hears Lucia's name, and orders the servants to shut him up. A servant pulls a cloth over Harold's mouth, muffling his voice as he tries to speak. Alexandra notes that she just remembered something while Harold makes muffled noises from the floor. She says that because Harold served under her in some capacity, she is throwing an object at him, which flies through the air and hits him in the head. Alexandra explains that Harold can keep the item as his severance pay. The object pops open on the floor to reveal valuables, leaving Zenaida and the other servants surprised. The open box reveals a highly valuable necklace adorned with a large gemstone. A servant looks at the jewelry and speaks to her mistress, stating that she recognizes the item. A memory shows Prince Alfonso presenting the jewelry box to Alexandra, stating that the gift was chosen specifically to suit the future empress. Alfonso added that he selected the piece himself, and Alexandra accepted the gesture, stating that it was fine. Returning to the present, Alexandra smiles and states that she has no need for the necklace anymore. Alexandra closes the box, noting that if it is sold in the correct place, the money will allow him to live for the rest of his life without working. She shoves the box against Harold's gagged face, stating that he should thank her in tears. Harold looks up at her in silence. Alexandra delivers a final farewell to Harold, commanding him never to show his face to her again. The servants drag Harold out of the room through the double doors while he mutters that this cannot be happening. The doors close completely. Alexandra expresses satisfaction that the first person has been successfully handled, bidding him goodbye forever while Zenaida stands nearby. Alexandra reflects on how difficult it is to manage everything on her own as someone who is accustomed to simply giving orders. She decides it is time to move on to the next matter. Zenaida speaks to her mistress, stating that she was surprised to discover Harold was secretly conspiring against her. Alexandra remarks that love is blind, stating that Harold likely became a fool because of the potato girl. She then shifts her focus to the next person. She points directly towards Zenaida, indicating that her attendant is the next individual to be addressed. Alexandra recalls that during the condemnation event scheduled for the next day, Zenaida is destined to abandon her quickly. She decides that she will buy out Zenaida before that abandonment can take place. Alexandra addresses Zenaida to present a proposal, and Zenaida responds by asking what that proposal involves. She looks back over her shoulder and asks Zenaida if she wants to serve directly under her rather than working for the household. Zenaida asks for clarification on whether this means she will serve only her mistress. Alexandra confirms the arrangement and states that she will provide the payment for it, leaving Zenaida in silence. Alexandra observes Zenaida and notes that her expression looks like someone who is trying to determine if she is planning something. She reflects that this reaction is understandable given how she has behaved up until this point. She decides to take immediate action. She places a jewelry box on the table and opens it up. Alexandra presents the collection of jewelry inside the box and offers it to Zenaida as a down payment for her exclusive service. Zenaida stands completely speechless at the sight of the valuables. Alexandra clarifies that she is not offering the entire collection at once. Zenaida requests permission to ask a single question. When Alexandra tells her to proceed, Zenaida states that she wants to know the reason why she was chosen. Alexandra explains that since Zenaida currently serves the entire household, she would naturally follow suit if Alexandra's father decided to cut her off. When Zenaida attempts to clarify her current loyalty, Alexandra flatly rejects the point. Zenaida smiles and states that since her mistress is so determined to secure her loyalty, it is difficult to refuse the offer. She requests to select 4 specific items from the box. Alexandra is surprised by the lack of hesitation and tells her to go ahead and choose as she pleases. Zenaida expresses her appreciation for the permission. Zenaida states that she looks forward to their future work together and requests that her overtime hours be paid as well. Alexandra watches her and questions whether she made the right decision, noting that the attendant is far more cunning than she originally anticipated. Alexandra clears her throat to change the subject, stating that she needs something from Zenaida right away. Zenaida expresses confusion. She points forward and apologizes, stating that she will not allow Zenaida to sleep tonight. Zenaida pulls back in surprise and wonders what her mistress means. Alexandra becomes annoyed and demands to know what Zenaida is imagining, clarifying that she does not have interests of that nature. Alexandra explains that many tasks must be completed before tomorrow, and she expects Zenaida to travel to multiple locations to carry them out without any complaints. She slams her hand down on the table, stating that she will now deliver the instructions. She tells Zenaida to either memorize the details or write them down so they are remembered. Zenaida immediately begins writing down the commands in her notebook as she listens to the instructions. She looks up with concern and asks her mistress if she truly intends to execute this entire plan. Alexandra confirms her intention and specifies that the plan must remain a complete secret from her father, adding that she will explain everything when the proper time arrives. Zenaida agrees to comply at once. Alexandra tells Zenaida to depart and orders her to summon Isidro first. Zenaida signals her understanding and exits the room, leaving Alexandra alone as the final moments of preparation begin. She resolves that she must begin making her own preparations as well while the window shuts firmly with a clear sound. Outside the estate under the night sky, a man observes that the summons are sudden as usual while he adjusts the rings on his fingers. The wealthy merchant Isidro greets Lady Alexandra and states that she looks beautiful as always. Alexandra dismisses the praise and asks if he heard about her request from Zenaida, and Isidro confirms that he did. Isidro asks if the details provided by the attendant are true. Alexandra relaxes on the couch and states that the information is correct without a doubt. Alexandra gestures to the room filled with various dresses and trunks, asking the merchant to take every single item away. She finishes her command by asking him to exchange all of the luxury goods for cash. The third chapter begins with a focus on the upcoming dissolution of the engagement. Isidro chuckles while looking over the luggage, noting that the collection includes items he originally supplied to her. He looks toward his client and asks if something about his past services failed to meet her expectations. Alexandra answers that she has been fully satisfied with his previous work and tells him to rest assured because her current necessities remain kept away. Alexandra gestures toward an empty chair and tells him to sit so she can explain her needs quickly, causing Isidro to gasp in surprise. Isidro smiles as he prepares to take a seat, stating that she normally makes him stand and wondering about the reason for the change. Alexandra shows her irritation and thinks that he speaks far too much, commanding him to simply sit down. Isidro looks at the massive pile of boxes and comments on the large quantity of goods. She asks if he still buys back second-hand clothing, and Alexandra confirms that they do. Alexandra asks what purpose he could possibly find for custom-tailored dresses. Isidro explains that a demand exists for these luxury items among the less wealthy nobility, adding that there are further reasons as he taps his rings. Isidro explains that some buyers are eager to purchase the used personal belongings of a duke's daughter. Alexandra states that his words mean her items will fall into the hands of people who have strange hobbies. Isidro states that if it displeases her then he will arrange for that not to happen. Alexandra tells Isidro that she does not care what happens to the items and that he can do as he pleases since she has handed them over to him. He laughs and thanks her for her generosity while Alexandra reflects that this major merchant is heavily connected to the criminal underground. She considers how Isidro handles illegal trades, spies, and violent acts for the right price, recalling that she used his services to hire the thug who targeted Lucia. Alexandra notes that several of her planned moves for the following day require Isidro's assistance, which is why she must raise immediate cash by selling her belongings. She declares that her ultimate goal is to crush all of the men who support Lucia and plan to condemn her. Isidro asks if he can begin evaluating the goods, and Alexandra tells him to use workers who will keep the matter entirely secret. Isidro agrees and claps his hands to call his assistants into the room to start inspecting the clothing and valuables. Alexandra states that she has a few requests to make using the money from the sale. Isidro replies that he already learned the main details from her maid. Alexandra states that she is glad their discussion will be fast. She requests that Isidro secretly monitor Lucia's bedroom tonight, causing Isidro to acknowledge the order. Isidro points out that Lucia is the person Alexandra dislikes, and Alexandra commands him to remain silent or face her punch. She states that she wants a complete record of everything that happens in that room until dawn. Isidro states that her request to check the bedroom reveals the nature of the event, and Alexandra confirms his statement. Alexandra reflects that the game script contains a private meeting between the Crown Prince and Lucia on the night before the condemnation. She states that she does not care about the specific details of their meeting, internally calling it unpleasant, as she shifts her focus to her true goal. Alexandra notes that she requires absolute proof that the prince committed infidelity while they were still engaged. She adds that they might also catch Lucia secretly interacting with another individual if they are lucky. Isidro smiles and states that because the workers will receive high pay to watch the room, he will have plenty of volunteers for the job. He asks when she wants to receive the update, and Alexandra states that she needs the report as soon as day breaks. Isidro observes that she clearly has her own reasons for the tight schedule and accepts the morning deadline. He asks if she has any other demands, and Alexandra introduces her next plan regarding the son of the general, which Isidro notes must be completed before tomorrow morning. Alexandra continues to explain the specific details of her remaining plans to Isidro inside the room. She reflects that her list of requests is finally finished, and Isidro signals his complete agreement. Isidro states that he will subtract the payment for all of these operations from the total value of her appraised goods. Alexandra smiles and confirms that they have successfully reached an agreement. She states that she expects good results from Isidro this time as well, and Isidro replies that she can leave the tasks entirely to him while welcoming her continued business. Isidro chuckles quietly while Alexandra sits back on the couch, feeling satisfied with the development. Zenith stands near the doorway after watching the entire meeting in secret, internally noting that the merchant is a complete scoundrel. Alexandra sighs as she observes her room, stating that all of her luxury items have been successfully cleared out. She reflects that her day has been highly chaotic so far and notes that it is almost time for her to be summoned downstairs for supper. Alexandra explains that her family gathers for supper every night because it is the only time their busy father can show his face, adding that their mother handles the primary education of the children. She notes that her older brother Cecilio has grown to excel because of their mother's training and will likely take over as the head of the family in a few years. Alexandra lists her younger siblings as the twins Viviana and Placido, and the youngest sister Esmeralda, clarifying that Placido is already engaged and Esmeralda is still being educated. She reflects that her sister Viviana is the actual problem. Alexandra notes that Viviana is classmates with Lucia and that the two of them have become close friends. Alexandra observes that it was natural for Viviana to support the relationship between Lucia and Prince Alfonso. She considers that because her relationship with Viviana was already poor, it was completely expected for her sister to turn against her. Alexandra states that she does not care if Viviana hates her, but notes that a specific issue remains. She recognizes that Viviana is also one of the individuals who plans to publicly denounce her tomorrow. Alexandra states that she is angry with Viviana despite her being her sister. She determines that she cannot allow her sister to act out of line during the upcoming event. Alexandra considers how to prevent that outcome just as a sudden knock sounds at her door. Zenaida enters the room and announces that supper is ready. Alexandra states that she will attend immediately, internally noting that she has only one course of action left. Alexandra walks down the corridor, resolving to make Viviana regret turning against her. In the dining room, Esmeralda expresses her gratitude to her mother and father for their efforts during the day. The father accepts the praise and mentions that his work was easier because Cecilio helped him. Cecilio points out that his performance still does not match his father's capabilities. The mother tells Cecilio that he is doing an excellent job. The parents note that with Placido's engagement discussions settled, the family has many positive events to expect in the future. Alexandra and Viviana eat their meal in absolute silence while sitting across from each other. An uncomfortable silence fills the entire dining room as the family continues to eat. The father clears his throat and addresses Viviana, asking her about her activities for the day. Viviana replies that she had tea with her friends after school, prompting her father to state that it is good to stay close with school companions. Viviana agrees, while Alexandra reflects on the phrase school friends to herself. Viviana locks her gaze onto her sister, causing Alexandra to look back directly in response. She looks away with a scoff, which causes Alexandra to react with immediate irritation. Alexandra internally remarks that they will soon see how long her sister can maintain that specific behavior. Alexandra places her utensils down with a clink and announces to her family that she has a matter she wants to discuss despite being in the middle of their meal. Viviana turns her head toward her sister with a confused expression. The father looks at Alexandra and notes the unusually formal nature of her sudden announcement. Alexandra hesitates for a brief moment before beginning her statement. She formally announces to her family that she wishes to withdraw from her engagement with the Crown Prince. Her announcement shocks every family member at the table, causing Viviana to drop her food in surprise while Alexandra grips her hands tightly under the table and notes that she has successfully delivered the statement. The father calls out her name and asks if this choice is a sudden whim, but Alexandra clarifies that it is not. She explains that she has been thinking about this choice for a long time because she frequently doubts if she can truly support the prince. The mother protests by stating that Alexandra is performing excellently, but Alexandra continues with her explanation. Alexandra points out that her parents must already realize the situation has become completely impossible to fix no matter how hard she tries. She states that they have already heard the rumors regarding her bad behavior, and her father looks down while confirming that he has indeed heard them. The father tells Alexandra that her wrongdoings are still within the limits of what he can protect and cover for her. Alexandra thanks her father and notes his kindness, but she quickly offers her apologies to him. She internally reflects that she cannot yield at this point and states that she must avoid causing her father any more trouble. Alexandra considers that if she stops now, she will be the only one to face the blame even if they are rebuked, whereas any further actions will damage the name of their household. She states to her family that for the sake of their ducal household, she will withdraw from the engagement. The father remains completely silent as he processes her words. He explains that the country's empresses are always chosen from ducal houses and states that they must consider who will replace her if she steps down. Alexandra answers that if that is the case, they do not have any reason to worry. Alexandra points out that the family still has two other daughters available. Viviana and Esmeralda react with sudden shock upon hearing her suggestion. Father acknowledges that her statement is true, but she prepares to explain her specific perspective on the matter. Alexandra points out that there is someone of a similar age who regularly attends tea parties with the prince and her other school companions to intentionally deepen their relationship. She directly recommends Viviana as her replacement, causing Viviana to react with immediate sweat and distress. Viviana slams her hands onto the table and objects to the statement, but her father quickly cuts her off, explaining that this is a critical matter for the household and telling her to remain silent. Alexandra looks on with a small smirk while Viviana stands across from her, shaking with anger. The father asks Alexandra if she is entirely serious about her proposal, and Alexandra states that she is. The father announces that he will allow the arrangement, and when the mother speaks up in surprise, the father states that it is perfectly fine. The father adds that he has also noticed the crown prince's affection is no longer with Alexandra and has instead shifted entirely away from her. He concludes that if they let things continue on the current path, no good results will ever come from the arrangement. The father looks directly at Alexandra and states that she has experienced a very difficult time. Alexandra states that she is actually the one who should feel truly sorry. The father states that he will inform the king about the matter soon because the king will certainly understand the situation, while Viviana reacts with visible panic in her seat. Alexandra states that there is no need for her father to intervene because she plans to request a royal audience the next day to directly ask for the withdrawal of the engagement, and her father agrees to leave the matter to her. Alexandra calls out Viviana by name, causing her sister to flinch in surprise. She smiles gracefully at her sister while Viviana looks back with confusion, wondering what her sister intends to say. Alexandra gives a sharp glare and states that although she was unable to remain by the crown prince's side, she knows Viviana will become an excellent source of support for him. She instructs Viviana to treat the prince well, leaving her sister trembling from a sudden chill while Alexandra internally declares that she has won this interaction with 21 hours remaining. The fourth chapter begins with a theme of rank and pedigree. The door suddenly opens with a loud bang as a furious Viviana storms inside the room. Alexandra looks back over her shoulder calmly as her younger sister demands to know what she was thinking. Viviana stands by the double doors breathing heavily from her frantic arrival while Alexandra watches her silently from the desk. She looks at her sister and notes internally that Viviana arrived exactly as anticipated. While cleaning her writing tools at the desk, Alexandra asks what the sudden intrusion is about and states that it is quite rude to enter a room without knocking. Viviana fires back that her sister is one to talk about proper behavior. She stands angrily across the room and demands to know why Alexandra made such a sudden declaration during their meal. She continues her outburst, stating that she cannot believe for even a second that Alexandra is truly willing to give up the royal engagement. Alexandra calmly continues to clean her items and states that she already explained her reasons at the dinner table. She restates that she is simply not fit to stand by the side of the crown prince. Viviana clenches her fist and calls the statement a complete lie, asserting that there is no possible way Alexandra would abandon her position so easily. She insists that the choice makes no sense, especially after all the hostile actions Alexandra took against Lucia in the past. Alexandra reminds Viviana that she previously stated that her older sister was not suited for the royal engagement. Alexandra points out that Viviana has finally obtained what she wanted and tells her to celebrate the outcome. Viviana wonders what Alexandra is plotting, and noting that her sister is the last person she would ever believe has changed her mind. Alexandra states that regardless of what Viviana says, she is still going to break off the engagement. She shifts her gaze slightly and asks if there is another reason for her sister's reaction. Alexandra asks if Viviana is simply angry about having to take her place as the future empress, leaving Viviana completely speechless. Viviana tries to deny the statement by saying that is not the case. Alexandra explains that the royal family stays powerful through its connections to the three great ducal houses, which makes a replacement a natural requirement. She leans back slightly and states that Viviana surely understood that reality already. Alexandra states that the role is not difficult because all Viviana has to do is give birth to the royal heir. Viviana objects, stating that she cannot fulfill that duty. She repeats her sister's words and asks if Viviana wants to step down simply because she is friends with the potato girl. Viviana stays silent while Alexandra narrows her eyes and addresses her directly. Alexandra asks Viviana if she has any understanding of what her words actually imply. She states that Viviana is not satisfied with removing her from the position and now wants to abandon the family duty entirely, which would force the royal family to blend with common blood. Viviana reacts with sudden shock. Viviana tries to argue that she did not mean it that way, but her voice is cut off as Alexandra slams her fist down on the desk with a loud thud. She shouts back that Viviana's statement means exactly that. Viviana flinches in silence from her older sister's sudden outburst. Alexandra sighs and relaxes her posture, noting that she hit the desk unintentionally. She adds that it is fine and states that if Viviana hates the arrangement so much, she will simply ask the women from the other noble houses to take the position instead, leaving Viviana completely stunned. Viviana panics and loudly objects, stating that she wants anything except that outcome. Alexandra looks at her sister and tells her to clean up after her own mess instead. She explains that it has been a long time since their household last produced a queen consort and reminds Viviana that she understands the high importance of that legacy. Alexandra reflects internally that her personal love for the prince was not the only reason she remained attached to the engagement. A memory shows a younger Alexandra who recalls how she carried the weight of the future reputation of their ducal house on her shoulders from a very young age. The internal reflection continues as Alexandra notes she was never allowed to fail, which is why she worked hard and endured for so long, before she suddenly stands up from her desk with a clatter and steps forward to point directly at her sister. Alexandra towers over Viviana and firmly tells her to listen, stating that as daughters of the ducal house and with Alfonso as the crown prince, this duty is their unchangeable fate. She adds that Viviana's personal feelings are completely irrelevant in this matter, leaving Viviana to look down in silent hesitation. Viviana tries to find an alternative and suggests that they could simply have one of the dukes adopt Lucia to fix the situation. Alexandra sighs and clarifies that the entire arrangement relies strictly on pedigree and not just noble rank. She cries out and asks if Alexandra expects her to simply ignore the mutual affection between the crown prince and Lucia. Alexandra states that their personal feelings are completely irrelevant to the matter and notes that they are free to spend the rest of their lives together for all she cares, causing Viviana to stutter in confusion. She instructs her sister to focus on the larger consequences and consider the status of a future child born from a union between Alfonso and Lucia. Alexandra details the situation further by asking if Viviana truly expects the great ducal houses and the rest of high society to recognize a child of that heritage as the legitimate next monarch. She maintains her quiet gaze while a sweating Viviana stands completely stunned, internally reflecting on how she failed to realize this harsh political reality until now. Alexandra explains that the crown prince is only one of 3 royal brothers and clarifies that if either of the younger siblings secures a child with a ducal house, the right to the throne will go straight to that branch instead. Viviana looks down and wonders what will happen next, which prompts Alexandra to look back with a confident smile and offer a new solution. Alexandra raises a finger and proposes that Alfonso could choose to give up his title as the crown prince entirely to live as a standard noble. Viviana reacts with sudden shock as Alexandra concludes that if the prince chooses to renounce the throne, no one in the kingdom will object to his marriage to Lucia. Alexandra points out that since the prince and Lucia love each other, social status should not matter. She then asks Viviana what is wrong. Viviana grips her dress tightly in silence. Alexandra observes her sister's quiet response and notes internally that Viviana has finally realized the reality of the situation. Alexandra reflects internally on Lucia's greed, describing her as someone who pursues multiple men for power. She considers that Lucia does not have enough genuine love to stay with Alfonso if he loses his title as crown prince. She concludes her thoughts by noting that Lucia only desires the title of the crown prince. Alexandra expresses irritation, thinking that others are hypocrites for claiming she only views the prince for his royal title. Zenaida knocks and enters the room to announce that the departure preparations are ready. Alexandra thanks the maid and states that she is leaving immediately. While Zenaida helps her put on a cloak, Alexandra asks if the letter requesting a royal audience was received. The maid confirms that the letter will be delivered to the king, and Alexandra approves. Viviana stands silently with her back turned while Alexandra looks toward her before leaving. Alexandra calls out her sister's name, causing Viviana to flinch. Alexandra tells her to use this time to think very carefully about her own position. The doors close with a sharp clack, leaving Viviana standing completely alone in the room in absolute silence. Outside the estate, the night sky hangs quietly over the empty city streets. A horse-drawn carriage travels toward another large estate under the crescent moon with exactly 20 hours remaining before the scheduled event. Fresh tea is poured into a fine cup as a host expresses genuine surprise at the unannounced arrival. The host is revealed to be the ducal daughter Carolina, who sits gracefully on her couch and notes that she did not expect a visitor at such a late hour. Alexandra expresses her gratitude to Carolina for hosting her so late at night. Carolina replies that she does not mind at all since she heard the situation was an urgent matter. Carolina points out that it must be cold outside and invites her guest to have a warm cup of tea, prompting Alexandra to thank her as Carolina dismisses her attendants to wait outside. Alexandra reflects internally that Carolina is the same age as her and counts as one of her close friends, noting that in the original game script, Carolina remained a neutral character who occasionally assisted both the heroine and the villain. Alexandra continues her internal thoughts, recalling that although Carolina did not appear frequently in the game, her status as a duke's daughter gave her major influence among the students at the academy. She sips her tea while considering that gaining Carolina's support will significantly increase her chances of success during the meeting tomorrow. Carolina then addresses her directly to ask about the true purpose of her sudden late-night visit. Carolina chuckles and asks if Alexandra has finally come to hand over the royal engagement to her instead. Alexandra answers that it is at least one of the options she is currently considering, which causes Carolina to look up with sudden surprise. Carolina asks for clarification on whether her friend is truly being serious about the matter. Alexandra looks down at her cup and explains that she had to think over the decision a lot, but she came tonight to state clearly that she has resolved to step down from the engagement. She asks if Alexandra is choosing to let that vixen have the crown prince. Alexandra clarifies that this is not the case, explaining that she has simply run out of patience for the prince. Carolina closes her eyes and lets out a sigh, remarking that the choice still makes a significant difference. She notes that the entire situation has deteriorated to such an extreme extent that even Alexandra is actively choosing to withdraw from the arrangement. Alexandra places her teacup down, stating her belief that the prince intends to pressure her into retiring during the meeting tomorrow anyway, using her past actions against Lucia as his primary excuse. Carolina notes that such an outcome is entirely possible. She remarks that even the once wise crown prince has become a complete prisoner to that vixen, adding that the prince might no longer understand the high importance of a royal ducal engagement, which Alexandra confirms. Alexandra focuses her gaze directly ahead and states that because of this situation, she has a specific request for Carolina. Carolina asks to know what that request involves. She references the upcoming event where the others plan to publicly declare how evil she is, asking Carolina to help defend her during that moment. Carolina asks if this means Alexandra wants her to cover for her actions. Alexandra clarifies that she is actually worried about being falsely accused of things she has never done. She notes internally that the sequence matches the original game events exactly, explaining aloud that the potato girl has already blamed her privately in front of the crown prince for the actions of other people. Carolina continues her thought, stating honestly that the girl is highly unusual because she causes all the gentlemen at court to fall for her one after another. She notes that in complete contrast to her cute looks, the girl possesses a terrifying level of perception and foresight, allowing her to win over all the gentlemen with absolute ease. Carolina adds that it is entirely natural for all the young noble ladies to dislike her for that behavior. She expresses her deep confusion regarding what kind of person the girl truly is. Alexandra breaks the silence by asking Carolina if she knows the actual origin of the term vixen. Carolina reacts with surprise and admits that she has never thought about it too deeply. Alexandra explains that the expression comes from a historical event in a country in the Far East during the height of its prosperity, where a fox demon transformed into a beautiful woman to deceive the emperor with constant pleasures, causing the leader to lose his focus and the country to begin its decline. She concludes that the nation ultimately collapsed because of the deception. She then slides a paper across the table and states that she will leave the item with Carolina. Carolina looks down at the folder on the table and asks what the document contains. Alexandra invites her companion to look over the material directly. Carolina remains silent as she flips the page open to inspect the contents. Carolina opens her eyes wide in complete shock as she scans the text on the page. Alexandra calmly calls out to her to keep her focus on the matter. She looks forward with a serious expression and states that the actions of that woman match the nature of a vixen perfectly, concluding that she may indeed be destroying the entire country. Carolina remains silent for a quiet moment while processing the information before addressing her companion by name. Carolina adopts a determined expression and asks to serve as Alexandra's ally, asserting that the vixen cannot be allowed to act as she pleases any further. Alexandra responds with a confident smile, expressing her gratitude to Carolina and stating that she is now in her debt. The 5th chapter begins with a focus on the relaxation of the ladies as Alexandra sits alone in her room and braids her hair. With 19 hours remaining before the scheduled event, Alexandra returns home under the crescent moon and collapses onto her bed with a long sigh. Lying flat on her back, Alexandra notes her absolute exhaustion and reflects that she has successfully completed everything she needed to do for the day. She raises her hand and considers her schedule for the next morning, stating to herself that she must meet with the king first thing to ask for the dissolution of the engagement. Alexandra looks forward in silence as she mentally repeats her formal statement requesting to withdraw from her engagement with the crown prince. She suddenly sits up on the bed and considers that the phrase sounds much sadder than she expected. Alexandra lets out a quiet sigh and determines that the current situation cannot be helped. She walks toward the large curtains and reflects that up until half a day ago she was someone who truly loved the prince, before she flips the fabric aside. Looking through the window at the night sky and the moon, Alexandra wonders where exactly things went wrong between herself and the prince. Alexandra considers if the issue was the fact that she lost her temper or the fact that she felt jealous of the potato girl. She further reflects on whether she was simply not attractive enough for the prince. Alexandra concludes that it is likely none of those reasons because her current world is a game where her specific role is simply to be hated by the crown prince. She realizes that a future where she could be with him never existed, noting to herself that although she knew this outcome was coming, it remains an instance of unrequited love. Looking down, Alexandra reflects that the current pain in her chest is exactly the same as the pain she experienced during her past life. A sudden knock sounds at the door as Zenaida apologizes for the intrusion, prompting Alexandra to respond from the window before the maid notes her location and advises her to take a bath and rest because staying up late will affect her performance the next day. Alexandra agrees with the statement and tells her attendant that she will follow the advice immediately. Alexandra moves to the large bathhouse where steam rises from the warm water as her attendant helps her unfasten her clothing. Zenaida announces that she will take her leave for the night and instructs Alexandra to call for her if she requires any further assistance. Alexandra looks back and asks Zenaida if she is not coming into the bath as well. Zenaida reacts with surprise and declines the invitation, but Alexandra insists that she join her just for today, causing Zenaida to repeat that she would prefer not to do so. Alexandra begins tossing Zenaida's clothing away and states that it is fine to relax occasionally, ordering her to prepare quickly while Zenaida calls out to her mistress in protest. Zenaida ultimately gives in to the demand and begins scrubbing her mistress's back, which leads Alexandra to state that the massage feels excellent while Zenaida stands by in silence. Alexandra calls out to Zenaida, prompting the maid to ask what she needs. She looks to the side and asks her attendant if she thinks she is pretty. Zenaida confirms the statement immediately, telling Alexandra that her mistress is very beautiful. Alexandra agrees with the compliment and states that she is definitely attractive, leaving Zenaida to watch her in silence. Alexandra was created with an extraordinary level of beauty that anyone would envy, specifically to highlight the simplicity of the potato girl. Alexandra has the power to charm noblemen just by walking past them while possessing true refinement and education on the inside, yet her circumstances remain difficult. She remarks with a sigh that love simply does not progress smoothly, prompting Zenaida to agree completely with her mistress's statement. Alexandra asks her attendant if she has someone she is currently seeing, and Zenaida reveals that she is actually going to be engaged soon. Alexandra reacts with surprise and states that Zenaida is leaving her behind to find happiness alone, which causes Zenaida to laugh quietly while asking to be excused. Zenaida comments that her mistress could use a bit more restraint, making Alexandra think that her attendant was supposed to be on her side. Alexandra then holds out the sponge and tells Zenaida to take it. Alexandra tells her attendant to hand over the sponge and announces that she is going to wash her instead. Zenaida tries to object, but Alexandra dismisses the protest by stating that she simply feels like doing it. Zenaida looks at her mistress and notes that Alexandra seems like a completely different person today. Alexandra asks if that is truly the case, and Zenaida confirms that she is quite different from yesterday, asking if she may know what happened as someone who serves her, which causes Alexandra to freeze in place. Alexandra remains silent for a moment before declaring that she received an oracle, causing a bewildered Zenaida to repeat the word. Zenaida has water poured over her shoulders and notices Alexandra walking away toward the large pool, calling out to her mistress as Alexandra dips her foot into the water. She relaxes completely inside the warm bath and notes that the water feels wonderful, before clarifying to Zenaida that her situation is not exactly a divine oracle. Floating in the pool, Alexandra explains that she has somehow come to know every event that will happen from this moment onward, using the upcoming day as a primary example. As Zenaida listens closely, Alexandra sits in the water and states that she is fated to be rejected by the crown prince. She leans her head back and adds that her companions, her sister Viviana, and even her own parents will eventually turn against her. Looking back toward her attendant, Alexandra clarifies that this upcoming betrayal naturally includes Zenaida as well. She looks at Zenaida from the water and explains that this dark future is the exact reason she previously secured her loyalty with money. Zenaida steps into the water and reflects that while the information is sudden and difficult to believe, it is highly probable that someone employed by the ducal household would end up in that exact situation. Resting her arms on the edge of the stone bath, Alexandra states that she is currently putting all of her effort into a difficult struggle to completely erase that future. Alexandra explains that she cannot simply lie down and accept a future where everything she has done up until now would be entirely meaningless. Zenaida remains completely silent as she looks down and processes the weight of her mistress's words. Alexandra looks closely at her attendant and maintains her quiet focus. She thanks Zenaida for her hard work during the day and instructs her to prepare herself because tomorrow will be equally busy. Zenaida pauses for a brief moment before offering a gentle smile and confirming that she will certainly comply. Zenaida asks if she may be allowed to ask a question, prompting Alexandra to invite her to speak. She directly asks her mistress if it is true that she genuinely loved the crown prince. Alexandra confirms the statement, explaining that she truly loved him and was completely prepared to spend her life by his side as his partner. Zenaida asks if it is truly acceptable to give up on that relationship so easily, but Alexandra calmly answers that it is perfectly fine. Alexandra explains that she has already lost interest in the prince and certainly does not want to be the one who gets dumped. She reflects internally that while the pain in her chest is real, it was never anything like an unwavering true love in the first place. Alexandra considers whether a love that remains intact no matter what actually exists. She ponders the idea of a storybook love where a person would even abandon morality for the sake of their partner. A flashback shows a young Alexandra standing over a crying boy near a large building, demanding to know if he fell down again and calling him clumsy. She reaches out to help the boy, causing him to blush as they hold hands. The boy offers his thanks with a bright smile, leaving the young Alexandra staring at him in surprise. Back in the present, Alexandra focuses forward and reacts with sudden confusion. Alexandra silently wonders why a childhood memory about that crying person suddenly returned to her mind, before Zenaida calls out to her mistress to get her attention. Zenaida notices a change in her mistress and asks if something is wrong, prompting Alexandra to explain that she simply felt a bit dizzy. Zenaida states that the situation is bad and advises returning to the bedroom so she can fetch some water. The scene shifts back to the bedroom where Alexandra rests under the blankets while her attendant stands nearby. Zenaida holds a tray with a pitcher and glass and asks how her mistress is feeling now, allowing Alexandra to state that she has successfully regained her composure and is perfectly fine. Zenaida states that she will return to her own quarters and requests that Alexandra call for her if any further assistance is needed, to which Alexandra agrees. Lying in bed, Alexandra offers her gratitude to Zenaida. Zenaida stops and turns around with a highly surprised expression, causing Alexandra to notice the reaction and state her confusion. Zenaida explains that it is simply highly unusual for her to receive gratitude from her mistress, prompting Alexandra to realize internally that offering thanks is actually a habit carried over from her previous life. Zenaida calls out Lady's name to gain her attention once more. She offers a gentle smile and states her sincere hope that Alexandra will be blessed with a much better match next time. Alexandra asks her attendant if she is making fun of her, but Zenaida clarifies that those are her true feelings. Alexandra reflects on a past comment about her having a distinct personality that she does not dislike, concluding that she agrees with the statement. The maid tells her mistress to rest well, and Alexandra wishes her a good night before the door clicks shut and she drifts off to sleep. The scene transitions to the royal palace back entrance under the night sky, where armed guards stand watch at the gates. A hooded figure carrying a candle sneaks through the dark stone hallways of the palace, looking around carefully as he moves. A sudden voice from the shadows orders the person to stop immediately, catching the hooded man by surprise. The hooded man turns around as footsteps approach, facing the individual who just walked into the corridor. The individual is revealed to be third Prince Gerald, who demands to know exactly where his older brother is going. With exactly 18 hours remaining until the event, Gerald maintains a steady gaze while standing in the dark hallway holding a lit candle. Wearing a dark hood over his head, Alfonso demands to know what Gerald wants from him. He is on his way to the preparation meeting for the gathering scheduled for the next day. Gerald points out the late hour and requests to know the identity of the person accompanying his brother. Alfonso pauses and addresses Gerald directly. The Crown Prince suspects that his younger brother was intentionally lying in wait for him to leave the estate. Standing firm in the stone corridor beside an armored guard and a lit torch, Gerald insists that his older brother must answer his inquiry first. Alfonso scoffs and dismisses the request. He states that since Gerald does not even attend the academy, he has no reason to provide an answer. The prince bids his brother goodbye as turns to leave. The prince suddenly freezes in his tracks when Gerald states his belief that the Crown Prince is actually going to visit Lucia. Gerald addresses his older brother. He states that he has heard reports about Alfonso acting cold toward their future sister-in-law recently. Alfonso states that the matter has nothing to do with his brother. Gerald insists that the situation does concern him. He shouts while saying that the woman is going to become his actual sister soon and notes that even their mother treats her like her own child. Our prince looks back over his shoulder and questions whether Gerald truly expects him to marry a woman like that. Alfonso gets sick at the thought of the arrangement while Gerald listens in silence. Gerald clenches his fist and points out that Alfonso once cared for her as a fiancé. Alfonso declares that the statement is not true. He explains that he is only supposed to take that woman as his bride because of a ridiculous tradition. He states loudly that someone who harasses Lucia simply because things are not going her way has no right to be his companion. Gerald looks down as he begins to present another point. He demands to know the reason Alfonso does not just say his thoughts directly to their father. The prince smiles and assures his brother that he does not need to worry because he certainly plans to tell him. Alfonso turns back toward the corridor and points out that as members of royalty they cannot act based solely on their emotions. This restriction is the exact reason he has decided to take his current course of action. He shared his plan that tomorrow he will make public all of that woman's sins to prove that she is not fit for the engagement. Gerald listens in shock. Gerald interjects and acknowledges that his future sister-in-law has done bad things. He said that her actions only happened because Alfonso was always with Lady Lucia. Alfonso abruptly commands Gerald to shut up. He directly demands to know what his little brother understands about love. Alfonso observes his brother and remarks that he finally understands the situation. He says that the woman in question has always treated Gerald well. Alfonso believes this behavior matches her exact nature. He claims she seduced him as insurance for the time when Alfonso loses interest in her. Gerald stares back in anger. He tells Gerald to wake up and states that he is just being tricked. Gerald clenches his teeth and replies that he will keep the advice in mind. Alfonso states that as long as Gerald understands the point, he is leaving and will return by morning. The Crown Prince walks away down the corridor while Gerald grinds his teeth. Gerald swings his arm and strikes the stone wall with his fist. He told himself that the one who is truly being tricked is none other than his brother. He reflects on a time exactly 1 year ago. The guy received a specific letter. He flips the envelope over to check the sender before reading its contents. The written message states that the Crown Prince will annul his engagement with the ducal daughter Alexandra and that she will subsequently be destroyed. Gerald could not identify the sender. Standing by a window, he initially dismissed the message as a simple prank. At that time Gerald observes Alfonso and Alexandra spending time close together. He feels that the couple was very intimate at the time, leaving him with no doubts about their shared future. But he continued to receive similar letters frequently from that point forward. The subsequent letters predict that the Crown Prince will meet with Lucia before the gathering. The messages also claim that Alexandra will commit evil deeds against Lucia out of jealousy and that the Crown Prince will become completely infatuated with the baronial daughter. Walking up a large staircase past closed doors, Gerald thinks that every prediction in the letters became reality. These ongoing events caused him to fully believe the written messages. He enters a quiet room and approaches a desk. He reflects that before Lucia arrived, his future sister-in-law was both a wise and noble person. The guy opens a small case to hold one of the letters. He notes that whenever he experienced trouble in the past, Alexandra always reached out to help him. To him her past actions reveal her genuine kindness. He stands by the desk and flips the letter in his hands. He reflects that he views her as a future sister. Regardless of what Alfonso says, he still likes his sister-in-law. Gerald recalls an image of Alexandra smiling gracefully among roses. He admits to himself that he also admires her as a woman, but he had previously given up his feelings because of his older brother. The guy looks down at the letter predicting her downfall. He reasons that if the contents of the message are true, his sister-in-law will face complete ruin the very next day. Gerald grips the paper tightly in his hand. He turns sharply on his heel. He declares to himself that he will never allow that outcome to happen. The guy pushes open a large set of glass doors leading out to the balcony under the night sky. He reflects that Alexandra has always helped him and has consistently remained his ally. Gerald looks forward and considers his older brother. He decided that if Alfonso chooses to abandon his duty to protect her and becomes her enemy instead, a new plan is required. He adopts a firm expression. He declares his resolve to step in and protect her instead. The guy steps out onto the balcony under the crescent moon. He directs his thoughts toward Alexandra and tells her to wait for him. Meanwhile, inside the castle, a hand slides a handwritten letter across a table while a figure passes by the window outside. Sitting before a burning candelabra, Empress Mariania lets out a quiet sigh as her maid formally addresses her. She notes the late hour and states that staying up any longer will put the Empress's health at risk. Mariania offers her thanks and states that she will rest soon, leaving the maid standing in silence. Looking down at the desk, the maid asked about the specific contents of the letter received from Lady Alexandra, causing Mariania to stammer in confusion. Mariania addresses her maid by her name, Elodia, and asks how Alfonso has been behaving lately. When Elodia answers that she believes the prince has been growing spectacularly, the Empress states that her question meant something else entirely. She places a finger to her chin and instructs Elodia to share her true thoughts not as a palace servant, but as her original self from a Viscount household, leaving the maid speechless. Elodia shrinks back slightly and prepares to speak with all due respect, stating that the Empress has likely already heard the current gossip. She explains that high society is currently filled with rumors claiming that the Crown Prince has been completely seduced by a baronial daughter. Mariania asks if it is that girl named Lucia. Elodia states that she has also ensnared several other men of noble origin, causing Mariania to look up in shock. Mariania remarks in surprise at the ongoing rumors, while Elodia confirms that many people have already been witness to these events. The maid explains that the actions of the baronial daughter have escalated to the point where some people believe they could threaten to cause disorder within the country. Mariania places a hand to her face as she feels dizzy. She reflects that she believed she had raised her child properly, stating her realization that he has been charmed by that kind of girl of all things. Elodia stands nearby in silence. She notes that since the rumor is so well known, Alexandra likely knows about it as well. Elodia answers that she is afraid this is true. Mariania lets out a quiet sigh as she places her hand on the document. She reveals that the letter is a formal request from Alexandra to withdraw from the engagement, causing Elodia to react with sudden shock. She asks her attendant for her thoughts on the situation. Elodia hesitates before stating that Lady Alexandra should be fully aware of what her position entails. Elodia feels there is a deeper meaning behind the letter. She thinks that Alexandra choosing to ask for a withdrawal despite her high status means she believes the crown prince is genuinely going to break the established tradition. Mariania is shocked by the thought of the possibility that Alfonso plans to cancel the engagement himself. After Elodia confirms the statement, the Empress remarks on how terrifying the situation is and suddenly stands up from her desk. The Empress walks across the room and understands that this is how the situation appears to Elodia. She then steps forward and opens a wooden drawer. Mariania reaches inside a drawer and rustles through her belongings to pull out a sealed envelope. She opens the letter and reads it silently while her maid, Elodia, looks back toward her in quiet confusion. Tightening her grip on the paper, she calls out to her attendant by name. Elodia immediately answers to her lady. With a serious expression, the Empress states that she will send a reply to Alexandra right away. She declares her intention to command the young woman to come to the royal palace the very next morning. Elodia bows respectfully to confirm the order. Mariania explains that she will place a messenger on standby so the delivery can reach its destination by dawn, leaving the Empress alone to hold and read the documents. As she reads the text line by line, Mariania stares in wide-eyed shock at the warning addressed to Her Highness. The message details that her son, Crown Prince Alfonso, is planning to publicly break off his engagement with Alexandra at the upcoming gathering, forcing her to realize that the situation has truly come to this. She remains completely frozen. Looking out the window at the crescent moon, she mentally prepares herself for what lies ahead. She acknowledges to herself that tomorrow is going to be an incredibly difficult day for the kingdom. The countdown to the condemnation event reaches its final stretch with only 17 hours left before the gathering. Zenaida fastens a dark traveling cloak over her maid uniform to slip away into the night, while third Prince Gerald remains awake in solemn anticipation, entirely separate from Alexandra who continues to sleep soundly in her bed. Alexandra leans over her desk as she realizes that she is a villainess in an otome game. This realization occurred 24 hours before her scheduled condemnation event. She has already broken a few plot flags to avoid the path that leads to her destruction. 17 hours remain before the event. Alexandra looks ahead with a direct gaze and states to herself that she is only just getting started with her actions. The setting transitions to a quiet cobblestone street lined with stone buildings. A hanging sign outside a stone building marks the location of the Isidro Company. Inside, an employee stands on a decorated floor and complains about being called out at this late hour when he was previously enjoying a good drink. Isidro speaks over his shoulder to the arriving employee. He tells the worker not to react in that manner. The wealthy merchant Isidro sits behind his desk with his hands folded together. He looks forward and orders the employee that there is a specific job available for him tonight. The employee rubs the back of his neck in sighs. He said that the request is far too sudden and demands proper rewards for the work or he will leave immediately. Isidro smiles and chuckles quietly to himself. He explains that all the other workers who received requests tonight said the exact same thing before they saw the compensation and changed their minds. The man drops a heavy pouch onto the desk and states that it is the down payment for the job. The guy catches the bag and opens it to find many shiny gold coins inside. He is surprised that such a large amount of money is only the initial payment. Isidro smiles at the worker and asks if he finds the payment acceptable. The employee looks to the side with a serious expression. He asks if the assignment involves any kind of dangerous investigation. Isidro extends his hand to pass a rolled document to the worker. He states that the task is actually the employee's specialty and tells him to take it. The guy opens the paper to inspect the contents. Isidro explains that the worker is required to keep detailed notes on everything that happens inside the specific rooms marked on the floor plan. He holds the paper and asks whose mansion they are targeting. Isidro smiles closely and states that the estate belongs to a certain baron. The scene shifts outside to show the worker standing before the large stone building at night. He climbs over the perimeter wall while noting to himself that he needs to watch the room of the daughter everyone is talking about. He throws a rope around the balcony pillars, climbs up the side of the building, and lands safely on the stone floor. Then he has successfully made it. He stands outside the building and decides to begin his investigation by looking through the window. He looks closer as he notices something inside. The guy moves his hand to open the frame slightly because he cannot hear the sounds clearly from the balcony. A soft voice sounds from within the room, causing the worker to stop in surprise. He freezes on the balcony as he recognizes the identity of the person speaking inside. The guy reaches out to widen the opening and looks inside. He swallows hard and feels that the situation seems completely unbelievable. Inside the room, two figures rest under the blankets on a creaking bed. The worker realizes that he is supposed to monitor this specific activity until the morning arrives. He reflects on the fact that he is receiving high compensation to observe this event and said that it is an excellent assignment. The guy reminds himself to focus on his assignment and begins writing detailed notes in his document. He pauses his pen as another thought occurs to him. The worker sits quietly outside and reflects on the fact that this area belongs to that specific noble lady. He looks back toward the window and considers the identity of the individual accompanying her inside. Inside the room, a man suddenly sits up in the bed. The movement startles the worker, causing him to slip on the balcony edge, but he quickly catches his balance and notes that he narrowly avoided a fall. He slides the window frame open slightly to check if the area is clear. From inside the room, a voice loudly declares love for the noble lady. Inside the room, Crown Prince Alfonso looks down and speaks to Lucia by name. Outside, the worker recognizes the prince and reacts with absolute shock at the discovery. The worker stands on the balcony in disbelief, realizing that the widespread rumors regarding the young lady are completely true. Looking through the window at the couple in bed, the worker knows that the prince is still engaged to his fiancée at this point. He feels that if this affair becomes public, the consequences will extend far beyond a standard disagreement, and the prince might lose his right to the throne. He wonders about the identity of the person who requested this specific investigation. The guy gasps as he combines the prominent rumor with the very high payment he received for the job. He sits quietly and processes the realization in silence. He waves his hand dismissively and tells himself that pursuing the matter any further is a bad habit. He decides to stop investigating the deeper meaning behind his assignment. The view shifts above the estate as he looks at the room and considers if the activity will last until the morning, concluding that it is pleasant to be young. The scene transitions to a different stone castle under the crescent moon, where another employee hired by Isidro begins a separate task. A butler walks quietly down a long hall lined with large windows inside a specific ducal residence. He holds a lit candle and walks down a corridor. A hooded man hides behind a stone wall to avoid detection before quickly sneaking through a nearby doorway. So this is our second employee. Let's see what he will do. The hooded guy stands inside a dark room as the door clicks shut, leaving the space in complete silence. He walks forward and notes to himself that he has successfully entered the room. He looks around to locate his target and spots the individual across the area. The worker approaches a bed where the ducal heir Roberto is sleeping deeply like Sleeping Beauty. The worker notes that the target is completely unconscious as anticipated. He reaches into his cloak to retrieve his tools, thinking that he must begin with the first part of the operation. The worker pours a liquid substance onto a cloth. He then places the damp cloth like a slap directly over the face of the sleeping ducal heir, causing the target to groan quietly. The ducal heir turns his head while remaining deeply asleep. The worker notes that the target will stay unconscious for a long time and decides to proceed with the main task. He moves briskly around the bed to complete his assignment, pouring a substance and altering the items near the unconscious man. The man finishes his task, lets out a sigh, and wipes his forehead while standing in the room to reflect on the situation. He looks at the ducal heir sleeping in wet bedding with blocks of ice placed on his body. He really doesn't understand the true purpose of this arrangement. The guy recalls the specific moment when Isidro instructed him to ensure that the ducal heir caught a cold tonight. Standing with his arms crossed, he feels that this extreme method might cause the heir to freeze to death rather than just catch an illness. He concludes that the target must have crossed the wrong person. The guy exits the room through the double doors, stating to himself that he simply performed the task he was hired to do and now intends to return to his drink. The scene transitions to another part of the city under the night sky, where another individual employed by Isidro begins a separate operation. Walking through the alleyways of the royal capital, the next worker pulls his cloak tight against his body and remarks on how much colder the temperature drops after dark. He stops in front of a stone residence, states to himself that he has successfully located the destination, and knocks on the heavy wooden door. The door opens to reveal a bearded old man. The worker stated that Isidro sent him. The old man immediately demands to know the location of the goods. The guy extends his arm and directly hands the requested package over to the old man to complete the delivery. The old man carrying a lantern leads the worker into a room. He instructs the worker to wait inside and he will finish his task in an hour. He sits down at a desk under the stairs with a clatter. The old guy scribbles on a document with a quill pen. In the background, the worker sits down on a stool. He looks ahead in silence as he begins to recall a past meeting. Reflecting back, the scene transitions to a tavern counter with 2 mugs of beer. The same worker notes the request to steal the secret accounts book of the Domingo Company. He holds his beer mug as Isidro drops a pouch onto the table with a thud. He clarifies that the money is the down payment provided by the client. Isidro looks at the worker with a smile and asks if he will accept the assignment. The worker states that he does not mind taking the job but points out that since Isidro is a rival to Domingo, Isidro will be immediately suspected by them from the very beginning. Isidro explains that the client has already fixed that problem, adding that he would not have taken the job otherwise. As he holds out a sealed envelope, he instructs the worker to leave it inside the vault in place of the accounts book. Isidro continues to explain the details of the plan, stating that the vault is located inside the room of the son named Mario. He said that according to his information, the location is not heavily guarded and the arrangement appears quite careless. He points directly to a specific location on a map. He instructs the worker to hide the book there for a short time after stealing it, before handing it over to the client's retainer at that designated square. The worker confirms that he understands the instructions. Isidro advises him to proceed with the plan as usual and to avoid focusing on unnecessary doubts. He states that the worker will eventually understand the reality of the situation once the public commotion settles. The scene transitions back to the present, where the old man abruptly kicks the tool where this worker sits and tells him to wake up. The guy gasped and realized that he accidentally fell asleep while waiting. The old man slides the completed document over to the worker. He announces that the task is finished and instructs the worker to take the item. The guy offers his thanks to the old man and states that he will take his leave. He steps back outside into the night as the front door slams shut behind him. While moving through the streets, he proceeds on his final objective. His remaining task is to hand the item over to the client's retainer at the square. The worker arrives at an open public square where water flows from a large stone fountain. He looks around the quiet space and thinks that this area seems suitable for the meeting. He stands alone in the public square as a gust of wind passes by, noting to himself that the breeze is cold. He suddenly shifts his gaze to the side as he detects someone approaching from the darkness. A hooded figure holding a lantern walks quickly across the stone pavers of the empty plaza. The worker observes the newcomer and realizes that the individual is a woman. He stands in place as she stops before him, noting to himself that he had originally expected a man to arrive for the meeting. The woman extends her open hand forward to bring up the matter of the promised goods. She holds her hand out and commands the worker to deliver the items directly to her. The guy passes the stolen book over to her, stating that the requested items are right here. The hooded woman accepts the book and flips through the pages to check the contents while the worker watches silently. He lets out a quiet sigh as she concludes that the exchange appears to have no issues. The woman turns away to walk down the stone stairs, instructing the worker to obtain the remainder of his compensation from Isidro before bidding him goodbye. A sudden, powerful gust of wind sweeps across the open square. The blast of air pulls the woman's hood completely back, exposing her face to the worker while revealing a specific emblem on her clothing underneath the cloak. "Wait, we know who she is. This is our girl's maid Zenith." The guy stands frozen by the fountain as Zenith addresses him, stating that he saw absolutely nothing here today. She turns her head to glare at him directly and demands confirmation that he understands her instruction. The worker swallows hard in silence as he processes the interaction. Zenith smiles underneath her cloak and bids the worker goodbye as she turns to walk away. He stands alone in the open square while thinking how terrifying she is and decides it is best to go home. And with this 15 hours remain. The scene transitions to a bright day outside a large glass pavilion building surrounded by trees as the sound of footsteps approaches. Inside the pavilion, teacups and food are prepared on a table where a lady sits waiting just as a door suddenly slams open. A girl rushes into the room panting from her journey. She offers her apologies and asks if she kept her companion waiting, while the seated lady reassures her that the situation is perfectly fine. The seated girl welcomes and addresses her as Lucia. Lucia smiles, explaining to her companion that she ran the entire way there. The sighted girl started the personal history of Lucia, who is very dear to her. According to her, Lucia was an only child adopted into a poor baronial household who remained optimistic and never complained about her simple livelihood. She was deeply loved by her adoptive parents, but then one day she was suddenly stricken by a mysterious fever. Her family prayed desperately for her recovery as she flitted between life and death. A few days later, as though the family prayers were finally answered, Lucia opened her eyes. Her parents immediately embraced her in her sickbed. However, the situation changed when Lucia declared to her companion that she was actually a reincarnated individual. Lucia's childhood companion observed the girl sitting across from her and realized that this person was completely different from the original Lucia she used to know. At first, she could not comprehend the situation as Lucia repeatedly insisted that she had been reincarnated into this world. After listening to the explanation multiple times, this girl finally understood that Lucia viewed herself as the main heroine of a game called Dokiden. Consequently, the girl viewed the fake Lucia in front of her as a university student who loved that specific game and now occupied the body of Lucia. The girl stated that it was impossible for all 8 male characters to fall in love with Lucia by the end of the story. Lucia laughed and countered that she had perfectly memorized the strategy guide for this exact route. The girl asks why Lucia was so determined to pursue an ending where she captured the hearts of every single man. Lucia pauses to consider the statement before preparing to explain her true motive. Lucia dramatically declared that all of her actions were done entirely for the sake of love. Her companion repeated the word love to clarify the concept, and Lucia firmly confirmed that this was the case. She states that everyone was very handsome and that she wants to be loved by all the characters she liked in her previous life. The girl states that she felt sorry for the men who would be exploited by Lucia. She replies that the comment was unnecessary because she worked hard to avoid any other route. Lucia states that they would be parting ways with the villainess the next day. The girl felt curious about where the past version of Lucia, who claimed to be happy with only her parents and a few friends, is now. She observes that the person in front of her was a selfish and greedy version of Lucia who acts like a heroine finding happiness in small things. Lucia states that she needs to leave, and the girl agreed, stating that the conversation was pleasant. Suddenly, she calls out to Lucia and states that she hopes Lucia's dreams would come true. Lucia offers her thanks as she departs, while this girl thinks that she still found this self-centered person to be angelic. The door closes as Lucia calls out that she would see her later, leaving the girl to think that watching Lucia try her absolute best to become the heroine was adorable. She asks from her heart to Lucia if she is listening to the words being spoken. This companion wants Lucia completely to herself and desires to stay by her side no matter what happens. To her, this feeling is love. As Lucia runs past the window outside, the girl recalls that she has stated those exact words herself. With 12 hours remaining before the event, birds chirp near the towers of the large stone estate while a maid enters a quiet bedroom inside. Zenith closes the room door and ties her maid apron. She adjusts her uniform and considers how long she has served as a domestic worker for this specific family. Zenith believes her journey starts a few years prior during her mid-teenage years. She was born as the third daughter into a viscount family that lacks significant wealth, and her parents have spoken to her one day regarding their situation. Her father apologized because the family lacks the necessary funds for her wedding engagement, prompting Zenaida to look at his apologetic expression and think about her options. At that moment, Zenaida decided that she will make a living for herself. Zenaida enters the room while thinking about how she has begun her new employment. During her early days, Alexandra acted in a spoiled and immature manner by shouting at the servants, complaining that her food is garbage, and smashing household items while Zenaida offered apologies. When Alexandra orders Zenaida to hurry up with her work, Zenaida complies while secretly reminding herself to endure the treatment until she saves enough money. She continuously answered the calls of her mistress to establish herself as a completely dependable and trustworthy servant. As Alexandra grew older, she left her selfish habits behind and became a refined woman suited to be the fiancée of the crown prince. Zenaida believed that her mistress would continue to mature and eventually become a wonderful empress. Zenaida's peaceful outlook changed completely when Lucia appeared and drew the attention of the crown prince. Alexandra's temper worsened once again, causing her to scream and vent her deep frustrations directly at the palace maids. Zenaida reflected that the environment was so horrible that she believed her lady would eventually receive divine punishment. She reminded herself to hold on just a little bit longer until she saved enough money. During that time, a sudden clicking sound signaled a shift in the situation. It was none other than Harold. He asked Zenaida to join them in bringing down that specific woman. Zenaida recalls those words as a statement whispered to her by a demon. Harold explains that the entire plan is a scheme organized by multiple people alongside the crown prince. He notes that Zenaida must be suffering from her daily duties and invites her to cooperate with them. She does not harbor any hatred toward her mistress, but she also acknowledges that her loyalty does not belong exclusively to her noble lady. Zenaida informs Harold that she wishes to join his plan while offering her inner apologies to her mistress. She originally intends to protect her own safety by ignoring the plotting and parting ways with her lady, which is how the situation is supposed to unfold before her choices change. Zenaida smiles quietly as she considers the exact reasons why she still chooses to remain and serve her mistress. She knocks on the door and enters the dark room after announcing her presence. She walks quietly across the floor toward the bed where Alexandra is sleeping soundly. Zenaida notes that she has actually realized the truth of the situation by herself, as she places a wrapped package onto a surface and pulls back the window curtains. The maid notes that she expects this change to happen the previous day as she pulls open the curtains and wishes Alexandra a good morning. Zenaida observes that her mistress has clearly changed while Alexandra makes a low sound under the blankets and rises from the bed. Alexandra inquires about the current time, prompting Zenaida to reflect on how her mistress has transformed into a completely different, wicked master. Zenaida states that dawn has arrived exactly as requested, reflecting on how Alexandra stretches after suddenly losing her long-standing affection for the crown prince and selling all her collected valuables without hesitation. The maid stands silently by the large window and considers what steps Alexandra will take next. Zenaida wonders how her mistress will alter the entire situation, just as Alexandra remembers the matter and inquires if the stolen account book has been received. The maid confirms that she has successfully obtained the book and left it on the table, causing Alexandra to smile with complete confidence. Our girl states that this specific evidence will ensure that the impudent Mario obeys her every command. A sudden knock sounds at the bedroom door as a servant outside offers an apology for the early disruption and announces that a visitor has arrived to see Alexandra. Alexandra expresses confusion and irritation regarding why she should meet with a visitor who is bold enough to arrive at her home so early without any prior notice. The panicked maid standing at the door explains that she understands the rudeness of the visit but notes that the entire house staff is currently in a major rush. The maid states that the guest waiting downstairs is Lord Mario of the Domingo firm, causing Alexandra to look up in sudden surprise. Our lady smirks as the identity of the unannounced visitor clarifies the immediate situation for her. She curls up on her bed and bursts into wild, loud laughter, which completely confuses the young maid while Zenaida watches her mistress with quiet amusement. Alexandra recovers her composure and agrees to see the man, ordering the maid to place him in the smallest drawing room, and the maid quickly confirms her understanding. Our lady addresses Zenaida and suggests that they take a very long time to change her clothing because the visitor is likely already in a terrible mood. Alexandra walks across the bedroom, stating how much she looks forward to seeing his reaction, while Zenaida stands by the window and listens silently. Zenaida bows her head and agrees to follow the instruction, thinking to herself that her lady remains a wicked woman but acknowledging that she is now genuinely excited to see what happens next. The maid resolves to serve her mistress until the very end of her journey. Alexandra notices her laughing and demands to know what she says. Zenaida claims it is nothing at all and offers to prepare a dress for the meeting. Alexandra writes a formal letter addressed to Sir Mario. She states her hope that he is well and offers her congratulations on the steady growth of his company under his leadership. She also informs him about a series of recent robberies taking place in the capital. As her maid attaches a necklace, the letter continues with Alexandra advising Mario to maintain the highest level of caution regarding the matter. She adds her belief that he has already placed more security at all of his properties. The letter concludes by revealing that the author of the words is ducal daughter Alexandra. Our girl turns around in her gown and tells her maid Zenaida that it is time for them to leave the room. She knows that a dress serves as the proper armor for a noble lady. 12 hours remain before the main event while a man sits by himself on a couch inside a large room. The waiting guest is identified as Mario, the heir of the Domingo Company, who shows heavy signs of growing irritation. Alexandra enters the drawing room and offers her apologies to Mario for the delay. She explains to him that she required more time than usual to finish changing her clothes. Our girl walks toward her seat while observing her guest, noting to herself that Mario is indeed very frustrated. She takes her place and speaks to him to begin the conversation. Alexandra asks Mario what business brings him to her home so early in the morning. Mario clenches his fist tightly against his chair and tells her to stop playing dumb. He loudly accuses Alexandra of stealing from him. Alexandra calmly asks what he is talking about and states that she has not stolen anything. Mario slams his hand down on the table and demands to know what the item is if she claims innocence. Alexandra identifies the crumpled paper with the dark wax seal on the table as the letter she sent to him out of concern, stating that she is glad to see it arrived safely. Our girl remarks that the safe arrival of the letter is relieving, while Mario glares back at her with a look of intense shock. He stands up abruptly from his seat and shouts at Alexandra to stop playing him for a fool. Our girl remains completely calm beside Zenaida and states that she has done nothing wrong, prompting Mario to demand an explanation for how her letter appeared inside his locked vault. Alexandra internally notes how noisy her guest is being before asking if he is confirming that something was stolen from his vault. Mario tells her to stop playing dumb, which causes her to say his name directly. Mario states that he will ask her the question one more time. She focuses her gaze on him and states clearly that something was indeed stolen. Mario instinctively responds that he has been saying that exact phrase before realizing his mistake and trying to change his statement. Alexandra watches him with a smirk as she reflects on the massive blunder he just committed. Our cunning girl asks what exactly was stolen. Mario falters while Alexandra thinks that acknowledging the existence of a hidden ledger is the same as admitting the crimes committed by the company. The company crimes, which include the human trafficking of prostitutes and hiring mercenaries to rob and kill people to continue operating a mine. Alexandra states that the involvement of the Domingo Company in these crimes is well known and notes the consequences if the ledger detailing these acts was stolen. She notes that the outcome depends entirely on whether the information written inside the ledger is true. Alexandra remarks that many people would become quite disillusioned, while a stunned Mario recognizes the book in her hand. Our girl holds up the book and asks if something is wrong, prompting a furious response from Mario, who tells her that she will not get away with this while Alexandra calmly fans herself. Alexandra knows that Mario is one of the capture targets for the Potato Girl and likely intended to declare that she would face condemnation today regardless of her actions. She thinks that it is unfortunate for Mario because she will be the one on top in the end. Which is why she will have him disappear because of this. Alexandra states that she wants to know what business Mario has at her estate. She instructs Mario to leave if he came only to waste time by yelling at her, which causes a startled Mario to ask her to wait. Mario asks Alexandra what she wants from him. Our cunning girl states that the matter is simple and notes that he only needs to show some sincerity, leaving Mario surprised. Mario shouts that he will never do such a thing for someone like her. Alexandra lets out a sigh and states that since he still does not understand, she will make the reality clear to him. She defines him as the son and heir of the great merchant Domingo while telling her exact identity. Alexandra details her status as the daughter of a duke and the fiancée of the prince. She states that Mario is only a commoner who became wealthy. She notes that his current actions are not the correct way to speak to the future queen. Mario stands frozen as the harsh reality of his situation becomes clear to him. Alexandra reflects on her time at the academy where people from all social classes were admitted and allowed to speak freely regardless of status, which previously caused her to ignore the complaints and behavior to her regarding the bullying of Lucia. Our girl reminds Mario that they are currently inside the estate of a duke. She asks him if he honestly believes it is still acceptable to behave in the same manner he did while at the academy. Mario stammers in response and finds himself completely unable to form a proper argument against her words. He drops his weight forward and slams his hands heavily onto the floor. Mario lowers his entire body into a kneeling position on the ground directly in front of Alexandra. The guy groans and quietly begs for mercy, prompting Alexandra to state directly that she cannot hear what he is saying. Mario presses his head against the floor and begs Alexandra to return the secret company ledger to his family. Alexandra chuckles and agrees to return the book, noting internally that she almost burst out laughing at his display. Mario looks up with sudden hope before Alexandra specifies that she will do so on a single condition. Our girl states that she wants Mario to avoid attending the banquet later that day because he is not feeling well. This statement causes Mario to react with sudden shock. Mario attempts to object, but Alexandra asks if there is any problem. She states her belief that this arrangement is a much better option than having his company crimes exposed, which prompts Mario to clench his fist tightly. Alexandra states that the future of the company rests entirely in his hands and requests his final choice. Mario groans silently while Alexandra watches him wait. Suddenly, our girl stands up quickly and declares that she has had enough of the farce. She states that she does not possess the time to entertain him further, which startles Mario. She asks for a guarantee that he will not abuse the secret ledger. Mario submits to her terms and states that he understands the situation. He confirms that he will not attend the upcoming gathering. Alexandra internally marks the interaction as a success and reflects that Mario has been fully managed. She informs Mario that she will arrange for the ledger to be delivered to his family the next morning, then instructs Zenaida to have someone guide him out of the estate, which the maid accepts. Our girl lifts her dress and turns toward the exit, addressing Mario to wish him a good day. She pauses to add an afterthought, stating that she almost forgot to mention that Mario is also forbidden from contacting any other people. Alexandra states that if Mario does anything suspicious, she will deliver the ledger to his rival, Isidro. Mario gives his verbal agreement to her terms as Alexandra departs and the doors click shut. Later, our girl notes that the interaction was successful and went well, while Zenaida states that she feared Mario would attack them due to his level of anger. Our girl expresses her desire to have breakfast, and Zenaida agrees to lead the way to the dining room until an outside voice calls out Alexandra's name. Alexandra's mother arrives and asks where she has been, prompting Alexandra to explain that she was managing business affairs. The mother then reveals that a letter from the king has just arrived. The mother clarifies that the contents of the royal message express the king's desire to have breakfast with Alexandra. Alexandra realizes that the meeting is scheduled for the current moment, while her mother notes that this immediate timing is expected since Alexandra requested the audience herself. Our girl reflects internally that she expected the audience to occur around noon and considers that the entire royal family will be present together for the meal. She realizes that Alfonso will now prematurely discover her plan to break the engagement. Alexandra reasons that she intended to keep her choices hidden until the gathering. The mother instructs her to go change her clothing while she summons the carriage, adding that she must not keep the royal family waiting. Zenaida addresses Alexandra to ask what their next course of action will be given the sudden change in the situation. Alexandra considers the lack of alternative options under the current circumstances and firmly states her intention to go to the palace. Our lady orders Zenaida to quickly prepare a proper dress for the audience, and her maid confirms her understanding of the instruction as the scene transitions to the royal palace. A palace butler escorts Alexandra through the grand stone hallways and states that the staff has been expecting her arrival. The butler opens the double doors and informs Alexandra that their majesties are already seated inside, prompting Alexandra to offer her formal thanks. She observes her surroundings and reflects internally that while she visited this palace many times during her childhood, she has never felt this nervous before. Alexandra takes a steady breath and steps forward into the grand dining hall where the royal family sits at a long table, offering her formal apologies for keeping them waiting. She performs a graceful curtsy to offer her greetings to the monarchs, while internally determining that it is finally time to settle the matter of her engagement. With exactly 10 hours remaining until the scheduled gathering, Alexandra enters the grand dining room as her name is called out to mark her arrival. The king, Empress Mariania, and Prince Gerald maintain a steady, silent focus as they look directly toward the entering guest. Standing before the long dining table underneath a large chandelier, Alexandra bows and offers her formal greetings to their majesties. Prince Gerald and his sister sit side by side at the table, quietly observing Alexandra as she stands before the royal family. The king instructs Alexandra to raise her head, prompting her to immediately look up and confirm her compliance. Our girl looks toward the unoccupied area of the table and thinks that Lord Alfonso is not present in the room. The king informs Alexandra that Alfonso has already gone to the academy to prepare for the later gathering and orders her to take a seat. She asks to be excused as he adjusts the chair for Alexandra, who sits down while silently realizing that the king completely saw through her thoughts. The king states that he is sorry to hold this conversation during a meal. Alexandra replies that she is instead grateful for their time. The king suggests keeping the discussion brief. He asks Alexandra to clarify if her request to end her engagement with Prince Alfonso is a serious choice. Alexandra confirms that her choice is serious, which causes Prince Gerald and the surrounding listeners to react with sudden shock. Our girl formally declares her intention to dissolve her engagement with Prince Alfonso. The king asks if Alexandra understands the impact this decision will have on both the royal family and the ducal family. Alexandra is already fully aware of the consequences. Our girl reflects internally that her personal honor will suffer damage and that finding a future marriage partner will become much harder. Alexandra remarks that the prince no longer loves her and that keeping the engagement is now harmful to both sides because of her own failure. But she silently disagrees with her self-blame. Our girl finishes her speech by stating that Prince Alfonso is not to blame for this situation. The king acknowledges her statement and lowers his head to offer his formal apology, which leaves Alexandra staring in complete surprise. She requests the king that he cannot bow to her and requests that he raise his head. The king states that his unworthy son has hurt her feelings. The empress describes the situation as pathetic and offers her sincere apologies directly to Alexandra. Alexandra, surprised to see that even his adoptive mother is apologizing to her, before she begs them to stop. Following a brief silence, the king looks forward and declares that he will grant her wish to end the engagement. King Carlos officially declares in his own name that the engagement between the two of them is annulled, prompting Alexandra to softly voice her agreement. Our girl offers her full gratitude to the monarch. Alexandra silently focuses her thoughts while the king suddenly brings the topic about the identity of the person Alfonso loves while the empress turns to address the king. The empress firmly states that the idea of allowing an unrefined and uneducated girl into the royal family is completely unacceptable, causing Alexandra to react with surprise. Alexandra remembers that the queen favored marriage in the original game and realizes that her choices have altered the story. Seizing her chance, she voices her complete agreement with the empress and states that marrying someone outside of a ducal lineage would be entirely unbecoming for the prince. The king addresses the table regarding Alfonso, stating his belief that the prince will not marry anyone else. Alexandra intervenes to ask if she may be permitted to present a new proposal to their majesties. Our girl explains that she previously recommended her sister Viviana to her family for the role of fiancée, noting that Viviana is close to Lady Lucia and that the prince would likely not oppose the arrangement. Alexandra suggests that if the prince still wishes to take Lady Lucia as his wife, the royal heir can instead come from Viviana. But the empress said that this compromise is nowhere near enough. The empress will only accept the situation if Alfonso completely renounces his claim to the throne. The king states his complete agreement with Empress Mariania, while Alexandra reacts to the turn of events as an entirely unexpected development. She inquires if this change means Prince Gregorio will now become the new crown prince. The king clarifies that Prince Gregorio has just been engaged to the first princess of a neighboring country, catching the listener completely by surprise since he had no previous knowledge of the matter. Alexandra looks across the table and thinks that the circumstances leave Gerald to be the only one left. He formally declares to the young Prince Gerald that he will be the next successor to the throne. Alexandra sits in complete silence and struggles to form any response to the sudden announcement. The king turns to his younger son and asks if he understands the weight of this new responsibility, causing Prince Gerald to look up in sudden surprise. The prince tightens his mouth to collect his composure before placing a hand over his chest and firmly voicing his agreement to the monarch. Alexandra falters in her thoughts as she tries to speak up. Our girl wonders if her sister will marry Prince Gerald, prompting the king to ask what she means and clarify that he only agreed to end her engagement with Alfonso. The king explains that if Gerald becomes the crown prince, Alexandra will simply become his new fiancée instead, which leaves her completely stunned as she listens to the condition. Alexandra silently processes her deep confusion while the king offers a calm smile. Both Prince Gerald and Alexandra turn toward each other with heavily flushed faces as they simultaneously react in absolute disbelief. Empress Mariania claps her hands together happily and loudly declares that the new marriage arrangement is an excellent idea. Alexandra processes internally about what kind of development has occurred. The king asks Gerald to share his opinion, causing the young prince to blush and stammer in response. Gerald looks away from the table in silence while Alexandra watches him from across the large table. Our girl maintains her quiet focus as Gerald pauses to collect his thoughts. He focuses forward and begins to speak his mind. Gerald loudly declares his desire to have Alexandra as his wife, leaving her completely frozen in shock. Alexandra reacts with total confusion and silently wonders if something is wrong with Gerald as well. Back at the mansion, Zenith smiles cheerfully and offers her formal congratulations to her lady. Alexandra glares at the current sequence of events and notes internally that she is not happy with this development at all while Zenith laughs quietly in the foreground. Zenith walks beside her mistress outside the palace building and mentions that Prince Gerald has always admired Alexandra, noting that this admiration appears to have developed into a romance. Our girl reflects that she never viewed the prince in that manner, but Zenith counter-argues that it is a mistake to view him as a child because he is currently growing fast and will quickly become a splendid adult. Looking serious, Alexandra considers that it has been a long time since she last saw the prince, noting to herself that he has indeed grown taller and more manly. The memory of Gerald loudly declaring his desire to make Alexandra his wife flashes through her mind, causing her face to turn red with embarrassment. Alexandra grips her head in frustration, silently demanding to know why she is reacting with such embarrassment, while Zenith stands behind her enjoying the performance. Zenith shifts the topic to note that her lady is scheduled to visit the king's brother, stating an inquiry regarding the purpose of the business there. Alexandra clears her throat and clarifies that she is not the individual who requested this visit, as they walk together down a checkerboard-patterned hallway. They enter the room and exchange morning greetings with ducal daughter Letizia, while Alexandra observes her and reflects internally that the young woman is the next chess piece in her master plan. She considers that the king's brother, Prince Felipe, is also a capture target for the heroine, concluding that since even the merchant Isidro cannot send assassins into the palace, she must set a trap herself. Letizia continues writing at her desk and asks Alexandra what she can do for her since she is currently busy helping the prince, prompting Alexandra to state that she understands and explain that she came to give her a present today. She stops her work to ask if the gift is intended for her, while Alexandra smoothly pulls a hidden object out from her clothing. Alexandra places a small glass bottle firmly onto the desk, causing Letizia to stare at the item in absolute shock. Letizia stands up abruptly with a loud clatter and demands to know where Alexandra obtained the object, while Alexandra remains perfectly still. Our cunning girl explains that she previously overheard Letizia searching for the item and subsequently ordered it from a company she frequently visits, adding that she had a feeling Letizia wanted it while Letizia clicks her tongue in nervous frustration. Alexandra instructs Zenith that it is time for them to leave the room, turning away to walk out the door while addressing Lady Letizia one final time. She offers a calm profile smile as she states that she sincerely wishes for Letizia's happiness, leaving the young woman completely frozen with a pale, terrified expression. Letizia remains completely alone in the quiet room as the sound of footsteps fades away, while outside the grand palace building under the bright sky, the maid calls out to her lady. Zenith asks her mistress what item she gave to the young woman just now, prompting Alexandra to chuckle quietly and begin her explanation. Letizia stares blankly down at the desk in grim realization, while Alexandra maintains a confident smile and declares that the item is a magical potion. Letizia reflects on her long-standing admiration for Prince Felipe, a feeling she has carried deep within herself for a very long time. Because she and the prince were close in age, they were able to meet many times during their youth. She viewed him as an honest and sincere person, which caused her to fall in love with him. Letizia was unable to convey her true feelings to the prince because he chose to remain unmarried in order to support his older brother, the king. She decided that she would also remain single, and she subsequently began serving Prince Felipe directly as his retainer. Letizia hoped that by staying constantly by his side, the prince might one day view her as a woman, though she recognized that this hope was very faint. The days spent supporting the prince were happy and fun for her, right until the moment he called out her name to interrupt her work at her desk. A child came into their life. The baronial daughter Lucia appeared and said that it was nice to meet Letizia. Prince Felipe had originally helped Lucia when she became lost inside the castle, and the prince formally introduced Letizia to the newcomer. Lucia remarked that Lady Letizia was very beautiful, and Letizia offered her thanks in return. She observes that Lucia made no effort to hide her status as a country girl, and the days when Lucia visited the prince became increasingly frequent. And one day, Letizia stopped in the hallway when she noticed unexpected sounds coming from inside a room. Letizia looked inside and saw Prince Felipe laughing happily with Lucia by the window. Even though Letizia was always close to the prince, she had never seen him laugh in that manner before. She realized that the prince had changed because he constantly talked about Lucia and even started neglecting his work. Somewhere along the line, his dignified appearance completely disappeared. All of Letizia's past feelings of love and regret were suddenly overwhelmed by a deep sense of jealousy as she watched the prince. Letizia did her best to swallow all of her difficult emotions, but in the end she could not contain them and called out loudly to Prince Felipe. She confronted the prince directly, stating that his work efficiency had declined ever since that girl began visiting him and declaring that the girl should be forbidden from visiting. Prince Felipe addressed Letizia by name and demanded to know if her statement was intended as a piece of advice or as an official order, leaving Letizia staring in shock. Seeing the prince react in that manner, Letizia realized that the man she had always admired was no longer within her reach as he turned his back and walked away. Letizia gripped her dress tightly as her chest felt as if it burst open regarding the person she had always admired, unable to understand how he had become like this. She reflects that there was only one reason for the events that followed, recalling the moment Lucia introduced herself. Letizia did her best to keep the girl away from the prince, but Lucia also managed to attract other powerful noblemen, including the son of the general and the son of a duke. Sitting alone at her desk, Letizia pondered why these events were occurring, realizing that it was almost as if Lucia knew exactly what was coming and had anticipated every outcome. Faced with the unfolding reality, Letizia concluded that she had no choice but to use the secret magic potion. She had established a secret agreement with the Domingo Company and proceeded to walk toward the designated meeting location under the cover of night. The secret operation failed when an unexpected individual suddenly called out to Letizia by her title, catching her completely off guard in the dark alley. Crown Prince Alfonso confronted the hooded Letizia while holding the small bottle, demanding to know why the most trusted retainer of Prince Felipe was involved in such actions while Lucia stood watching from behind. Letizia expressed her frustration and wondered why the Crown Prince was present at that location. Prince Felipe arrived to address Letizia directly by her name, while Letizia looked at the other person who was none other than the owner's son of the Domingo Company. Lucia loudly stated that it was wrong to disrespect Prince Felipe's feelings in such a manner. Letizia could only utter a brief sound. Prince Felipe recognizes the true nature of the situation and states that they should promise to keep the matter entirely between themselves. Lucia tells Letizia that she hopes Letizia will change her mind and continue to be a good friend to her uncle, while Letizia begins to realize the scope of what is happening. She realized the painful reality that everyone has fallen completely in love with Lucia while rain pours heavily over the palace tower. As the storm continues outside the castle walkways, Prince Felipe notices Letizia and states that the timing is perfect because he wants to consult her on a certain matter. Prince Felipe explains that Lucia has invited him to attend their next gathering and requests Letizia to help him decide what he should wear, causing Letizia to weep silently under her cloak as she addresses her lord. Through her tears, Letizia addresses the prince directly and asks if Lucia is indeed the one that he loves. Prince Felipe responds with a gentle expression and openly confirms that he loves Lucia with all his heart. After hearing that, Letizia could no longer stand the situation and decides that she should simply disappear from his life if she is going to remain this miserable. She was originally planning to resign from her position as his retainer, but her path completely changed since Alexandra arrived and left the potion bottle on her desk. Letizia looks down silently as her hand reaches out toward the small bottle on the surface. Later, she knocks on the door and informs Prince Felipe that it is time for a break as she carries a tray with tea. Prince Felipe looks up from his desk to thank her and states that he will accept the drink as she approaches. Prince Felipe takes a sip from his teacup while Letizia watches him closely, noting a sudden uncomfortable reaction from the prince. He suddenly cries out in pain and knocks over his teacup onto the paperwork, prompting Letizia to shout out to him. Letizia realizes internally that she did not check the liquid because the bottle looked identical, and she begins to fear that the substance is actually poison. Letizia moves closer to ask if something is wrong and where he is hurt, but Prince Felipe hunches over his desk and states that he is fine and there is no problem. She states that she will go call a doctor immediately and tells him to rest, but Prince Felipe abruptly slaps her hand away and loudly forbids her to touch him. Felipe sweats and gasps heavily for air while commanding Letizia not to say anything, leaving her to stand back and observe his condition in silence. Letizia experiences a sudden realization as she looks at her hands, understanding that the potion is the real deal and represents everything she wanted and wished for. She requests Prince Felipe to take a rest in the next room and asks him to hold on to her, but Prince Felipe tells her to go away and she states that she will not do so. Letizia instructs Prince Felipe to be patient. The prince grows dizzy as sweat pours down his face. He clicks his tongue and gasps heavily for air. He weakly calls out Letizia's name as she leans over him. Suddenly, he grabs Letizia and pins her down on the floor. The surrounding furniture breaks completely under their weight. Letizia lies on the wooden floor and addresses Prince Felipe by his title. Prince Felipe rests over her while gasping heavily for breath. He tells Letizia to run away because he does not want to hurt her. Letizia listens to his warning and responds with a quiet smile. She states that the situation is perfectly fine. Letizia holds Felipe tightly and declares that she has been waiting for this day, leaving the prince completely confused. Letizia looks down with a gentle expression and declares her love for Felipe. He opens his eyes wide in absolute shock. She spreads her arms wide and tells the prince to do as he likes. The countdown shows that 8 hours remain before the gathering while rain pours over the stone pavilion building. Prince Felipe's final shout echoes out, followed by a soft sound from within the quiet room. Lucia smiles happily as she recalls how wonderful her time with Prince Alfonso was the previous night. Her companion notes that Lucia appears to have had an excellent time, and Lucia laughs while offering her thanks. Her companion asks if it is finally time for the condemnation event, concluding that the story will successfully reach the reverse harem ending without encountering any issues. The companion raises her teacup and inquires if something is wrong, causing the conversation to stall. Lucia learns that both Sir Roberto and Sir Mario are sick that day, and she grows anxious upon realizing that Sir Balthasar has also vanished. She explains that this development indicates someone is no longer following the script, leaving both girls to wonder who could have caused such a disruption. Lucia thinks that Lady Alexandra is capable of doing this, prompting her companion to point out that the noble lady showed no signs of being different before, though Lucia still thinks there is no other suspect. She points out that everyone else was resting at the time, leading her companion to realize that Lady Alexandra might have suddenly remembered her past life the previous day. The companion instructs Lucia to calm down, stating that a person can do very little in a single day and expressing her belief that the remaining targets should still be safe. Lucia confirms that everyone else is fine, stating that it would be impossible even for a reincarnated person to undo her fate in a single day. She notes that it is difficult to meet the hidden path in the first place, reassuring herself that she is absolutely fine. Lucia remarks that there is nothing to panic about when thinking over the situation, stating that she is simply being impatient. The companion listens in silence and considers that the situation may be exactly as Lucia says. The companion reflects that if Lucia is correct and Alexandra is indeed reincarnated, the noble lady possesses the finances and connections to make those changes possible. She feels that Lucia currently still thinks she can get away with her actions, though it remains unknown who will ultimately win in the end. She considers what will happen to Lucia if things continue as they currently are. Lucia observes her companion and asks if something is wrong. The companion chuckles and states that nothing is wrong, reflecting internally that everything will have gone exactly how she wanted should that outcome occur. She tells Lucia to enjoy the gathering, and Lucia voices her agreement as rain continues to fall outside the pavilion. 7 hours remain before the main event as a knocking sound echoes outside the stone residence. Inside the room, the maid informs Alexandra that Sir Isidro has arrived to see her, prompting Alexandra to give instructions to send the visitor inside. Isidro steps through the doorway and requests to be excused, stating that he has arrived to deliver his report exactly as they previously agreed. Alexandra stands by the window and states that she has been waiting for him, while Isidro explains in response that he was delayed. As the maid stands waiting in the background, Isidro stands with our girl and suggests that they begin their meeting with a specific matter. Isidro hands over a packet of documents and explains that it contains the report from monitoring the mansion of the Baron, while Alexandra takes the papers and offers her thanks. She begins to flip through the pages of the document in silence. As she continues reading, her expression changes and she internally states her confusion regarding what she is looking at. Isidro chuckles and explains that the writer has a steady habit of composing reports in the style of a novel, causing Alexandra to realize the reason for the layout. She looks down at the pages and observes that the text is written like an erotic novel, leaving her completely speechless while noting that the work is impressive. Isidro inquires if the actual content of the report is correct, and Alexandra confirms that the information is natural without any issues. She smiles behind the paperwork and notes that this confirmation leads to a clear conclusion. Our Lady notes that His Highness abandoned his fiancée and laid hands on another woman, stating that she is not incorrect in her assessment. Isidro smiles and agrees that this indeed seems to be the exact case. Alexandra considers that if this information becomes public knowledge, the two individuals will not get away scot-free, realizing she can use the report as a perfect pretext to place the blame on them instead. Our girl changes the subject to inquire about the status of the other assignments, and Isidro confirms that he has the updates ready. Isidro explains that the general's son, Sir Baltasar, has an upset stomach after a maid secretly gave him a laxative, ensuring it is impossible for him to attend the gathering today. He continues his report by stating that the Duke's son, Sir Roberto, has developed a very high fever this morning while shivering in his bed. Alexandra states that the news is quite worrying, and Isidro agrees in a shameless manner while pretending to wonder what could have happened to both men. Isidro mentions a separate piece of information that he gathered before his arrival, stating that a major commotion just took place at the residence of the king's brother. He reveals that rumors claim Prince Felipe has violated the lady who assists him, causing Alexandra to look on in sudden surprise. She reacts quietly to the news, holding a trembling hand over her mouth as she processes the update. Alexandra feigns deep shock aloud over the indecent actions of the Royal Highness while her maid watches silently in the background. Internally, she knows that Alexandra is the true cause of the situation and our girl offers her full gratitude to her. Isidro remarks on how unusual it is for someone as principled as the prince to act so indecently, noting that the target did not even consume the powerful aphrodisiac provided the previous day. Alexandra agrees completely, stating that the turn of events is truly unbelievable and terrible. He suggests that they accept this outcome for the time being and directly addresses Alexandra to transition to their next matter. Isidro extends his hand to deliver a small slip of paper, stating that this fulfills her final request, which causes Alexandra to look at the item in surprise. Alexandra looks down at the document in silence. Isidro instructs her that she will successfully meet the designated individual if she proceeds to that specific location at the appointed time. He lowers his head and advises Alexandra to remain extremely cautious during her task, prompting Alexandra to confirm that she fully understands the instruction. Alexandra addresses Isidro directly with a calm smile, offering her full appreciation and stating that his assistance has been a great help to her plans. Isidro closes his eyes with a satisfied expression and responds to her gratitude by stating that he only asks for her continued patronage in the future. Our girl calls out to Zenaida, declaring that they will leave for the plaza in 1 hour. She instructs her maid to make all necessary preparations immediately, and Zenith confirms her understanding. Alexandra reflects that 6.5 hours remain until the gathering. She notes that there are 3 capture targets left and determines that Prince Alfonso will be the final individual she deals with, meaning she must manage the other 2 targets over the next few hours. While Zenith assists her with her dress in front of the mirror, Alexandra decides that she will personally handle one of the remaining targets. Meanwhile, Carolina takes care of the other individual. Alexandra maintains complete confidence in Carolina, who is currently at the academy building. She believes that Carolina will not fail and she will bring back results that exceed Our Lady's original expectations. With 6 hours remaining before the main event, Carolina arrives outside the teacher's office at the academy. She takes a steady breath, knocks on the door, and receives permission from a voice inside to enter the room. Carolina asks to be excused as she steps inside the office. She addresses Teacher Theodore directly and asks if she may speak with him for a moment. Teacher Theodore turns in his seat to greet his visitor and asks Carolina if there is anything wrong. Carolina closes the door behind her and states that she has caught wind of a nasty rumor. Theodore repeats the word to clarify her meaning, and Carolina confirms that this is the case. She continues her statement and focuses her gaze forward, telling him directly that the rumor claims he has been involved in an indecent relationship. Theodore acknowledges the statement and notes that he has lived a peaceful life until now, adding that he did not expect such rumors to spread. Carolina looks at him firmly and reminds him that it is against the law to enter into a relationship with a student unless the couple is formally engaged. Theodore remains calm and claims he does not know what she has heard, advising her to pay the matter no attention. Carolina states clearly that his actions are far more exposed than he realizes, prompting Theodore to ask for clarification on her meaning. She opens her notebook and points out that he began frequently going out with a specific female student 1 year ago. Theodore turns his head away and crosses his arms, stating that he has no recollection of those events. Carolina reads from her records and explains that the meetings originally began as trips to the botanical gardens for extracurricular study before gradually turning into dinners together. Theodore maintains his smile and states that he does not understand her words, suggesting that she might be confusing him with someone else. Carolina closes her book and dismisses his denial before reminding him of specific details from the previous week, noting that after he and Lady Lucia visited the theater, they took a walk on the beach where he held the young woman in a close hug. Theodore lets out a sigh and shares his surprise that Carolina investigated the matter to such a degree, adding that he spent considerable effort disguising himself during his outings. Carolina states that Theodore has now openly admitted to his actions and requests to know his next steps. Theodore stands by the window and remarks that he does not care about the situation in the first place, explaining that her words are simply rumors without any solid evidence, which startles Carolina. He looks out the window with a smile and explains that he has always performed his duties faithfully, noting that the headmaster would never believe a baseless accusation even if this story managed to reach him. Carolina acknowledges the current state of the conversation and states that she wants to ask about a specific matter she does not understand. She looks across the room at Theodore and inquires about the reasons why he felt attracted to someone like that girl. Carolina details her disapproval of the young woman, stating that as a baron's daughter, she should remain aware of her own social status instead of constantly acting like the center of the world. She points out that the girl regularly shows affection to many different gentlemen, causing the other female students at the academy to shun her completely because of that behavior. Carolina focuses her gaze forward and declares that she entirely fails to understand what makes such a selfish child attractive to anyone. Theodore slams his fist forward and commands Carolina to choose her next words wisely, causing her to startle at his sudden movement. Theodore focuses his gaze intensely and clarifies that the young woman is not a child to him, declaring that she is instead like a mother to him. He grimaces with deep irritation while Carolina looks on with wide eyes and realizes how disgusting the matter is. Carolina steps back toward the door and reflects that the situation is exactly what Lady Alexandra previously described, recalling her warning that the gentlemen around the woman adore her to an unusual degree and noting that the country may be destroyed if everyone else behaves in the same manner. She considers her path and determines that she is not performing this task simply because Lady Alexandra told her to do so, but because as the daughter of a ducal house, she has a personal duty to protect the country. Carolina steps forward firmly and addresses the teacher, repeating that she heard about this matter from someone else and stating that there are other people who currently know the truth. She looks directly at Theodore and asks what he intends to do if Lady Alexandra discovers the truth, leaving Theodore completely startled as he contemplates the reality of Alexandra knowing. Carolina explains that Lady Alexandra would face no difficulty in spreading the truth to the public, which would instantly leave Lady Lucia as the main target of criticism, and she asks if Theodore will truly be able to remain unfazed and pretend he knows nothing when that happens. Theodore leans back against the window with a confident smirk and asks if she expects him to admit defeat just like so, stating that he will simply quit teaching when that situation occurs. Carolina states that everything will be fine and the two of them can eventually date in public, but reminds him that the girl is still only a first-year student. She points out the problem of who will protect her during her remaining 2 years of study at the academy. Carolina explains that most of the gentlemen close to her will graduate this year, leaving only the heir of the Domingo Company, who lacks the necessary authority to act as a shield because he is a commoner who received a backdoor admission. Theodore clicks his tongue as Carolina prepares to share a private matter between the two of them. Carolina reveals that Lady Alexandra plans to expose all of the gentlemen who support Lady Lucia at the gathering later that night, catching Theodore completely off guard. She notes that the Crown Prince intends to stay with her even after graduation, but points out the consequences if that arrangement is also stopped. Theodore realizes that under those circumstances no one will be left to support Lucia, and Carolina confirms that this is the case. Carolina holds out her hand and presents a new option, stating that Theodore himself could protect her instead. Theodore reacts in absolute confusion, stating that he believed she had come to the office to accuse him of a crime, which prompts Carolina to address that specific point. She offers a clear choice, stating that she can turn a blind eye to the matter as long as Theodore promises not to attend the gathering today. She raises her finger with a calm expression, adding that to put it another way, it might be better for him if he chooses not to attend. Carolina explains that Lady Alexandra intends to completely get rid of the gentlemen who participate in the event today, noting that he will remain out of trouble if he simply avoids the meeting. She extends her hand toward the teacher and points out that if he accepts these terms, he will be the only individual left among those who surround Lady Lucia. Theodore looks upward in silent realization, reflecting on the fact that this outcome means he will have Lucia entirely to himself. He places a hand over his face and bursts into wild laughter at the sudden development, stating to himself that the situation has become highly interesting. Theodore touches his hair and expresses his gratitude to Carolina for delivering the information. She responds by thanking him for his cooperation instead and wishes him a good day as she exits the room. While walking away through the school hallway, Carolina thinks about how stupid the teacher is being. He fails to realize Lady Alexandra actually intends to drive the young woman completely out of the academy. Carolina pauses near the exit and states that she has successfully performed her part of the operation. She looks out over the open campus courtyard and leaves the rest of the strategy in the hands of Lady Alexandra. Outside, Alexandra lets out a loud sneeze, which catches Zenaida completely by surprise. Zenaida asks Alexandra if she is alright after sneezing. Alexandra, wearing a new dress, stands outside and responds that she is fine. Zenaida states that it is almost time and asks if she is ready. Alexandra confirms that she is perfectly ready for the task. Below them, the bell inside the academy clock tower begins to ring. She notes that the time has arrived. Alexandra steps forward and announces that it is time to go. Zenaida advises Alexandra to be careful, and our girl confirms that she will do so as she walks down the stone path ahead of the guards. A countdown box indicates that 5 hours remain before the main event. Alexandra clenches her fist and internally states that this is her final move before the final battle begins.